All right. Just going through a little bit of a ad on my one page here. Okay. All right. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. We are here for another incredible episode of Hash Church. Who's stoked? Who's stoked? I see a whole room full of awesome people. Harry Hash Druid, Bingo Lombardi holding it down. OG Brick, Harry Hash Druid, Booth 9666, Kung Fu Vapes. Everyone give Kung Fu Vapes some love, bro. That guy just went through serious shit. He just I'll have to have him on the show one day and we can talk about what he went through because it's too intense to go right now, but he's a good friend, and we're really happy that he's still here with us. John Dawson, give him some love. He's in the chat. Kung Fu Vapes. Seriously, we almost lost him. That was close. Anyway, I'd love to shout out our sponsors as always. Make sure I'm recording on here. Absolutely. All right, here we go. As always, we got to shout out these people that really help Hash Church flow for you guys each and every Sunday. And we're going to start with our good folks over at the Press Club. You can elevate your solventless game at Hash Church with the Press Club's premium lineup of rosin extraction essentials, proudly supporting the community through top-tier tools that make clean, potent concentrates a breeze. From their legendary rosin bags with proprietary pink stitch and zero blowout guarantee, for unbeatable durability and yield, to award-winning wash bags, premium parchment paper, pre-press molds, and the innovative Press Club rosin press for precise heat and compressor control. Whether you're crafting at home or scaling up, their IsoSwab station and collection plates keep your setup spotless and efficient, all crafted with 100% food-grade dye-free nylon for contaminant-free results that preserve those precious terpenes. Join the Press Club in championing Hash Church by heading to thepressclub.co today and gear up for your next epic press. I also saw that the Press Club is now sponsoring Masters of Rosin in Los Angeles. So go give those guys, Masters of Rosin, a follow, as well as at thepressclub.co, and support them in any way that you can because both of those groups are awesome, awesome people. Next up, we're going to shout out Puffco. Hey, if you're going to elevate your solventless game at Hash Church with the Press Club's premium lineup, well, you better elevate your sessions at Hash Church with Puffco's cutting edge lineup. Starting with the innovative Pivot, a pocket-sized dab pen that delivers the full rig experience on the go, featuring a quick release 3D chamber for premium flavor and real-time temperature control. With 4 heat presets and haptic feedback. For epic group rips, dive into the Puffco Peak Pro, powered by revolutionary 3D XL bowl technology that offers a 78% larger chamber for 2x more vapor, even heating from the sides to preserve terpenes, and an XL joystick for fuller loads with less reclaim. Don't miss the new Proxy, the modular portable powerhouse with 4 precision heat settings, fast 90-minute charging, boost mode for intense hits, and easy disassembly for seamless cleaning, perfect for any adventure or perfect to give away to good people when you're in South Africa. I wonder who did that. Support Puffco's game-changing innovations by heading to www.puffco.com or following at Puffco on Instagram today. Hey, last but not least, I got to shout out my own company, man, Bubble Bags. We stand out as the premier choice for water hash extraction, and it's no surprise why. We're the original innovators who set the standard for quality and performance, crafted with durability in mind. These bags come with a lifetime warranty, ensuring you're covered for years of consistent use. The team behind Bubble Bag takes pride in our pioneering legacy, backing every product with unwavering confidence and a commitment to excellence, making us a trusted go-to for enthusiasts and professionals alike seeking top-tier hash extraction results. You can check us out at www.bubblebag.com. You can use the code HashChurch10 for your 10% discount, but I will tell you, the bags are on 50% off right now from what they were a month ago, so that would be a 60% discount. So go check that out when you get a chance. In the meantime, welcome, Etienne. How are you doing, my friend? Nice to see you back on the continent.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
It
Mm.
is good to be back. It looked like a fantastic trip, dude. I mean, the wildlife photos really got me. I was like, I need to do that with my kids. My kids need to see. Whenever I see animals like that, I'm reminded of David Attenborough when he started going off on how like 77% of all bird life in the world currently is chickens that we slaughter and consume. And there's about I think maybe 240 billion other animals that we slaughter and consume over the course of a year. And those animals make up, geez, with the population, the animals that we eat with humans make up 96% of all mammalian life on Earth. So 4% of mammalian life are the photos that you took, Etienne, and they were spectacular. It looked absolutely incredible. What a bucket list thing to do, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, seriously, smoking great hash in Africa, highly recommend it to everybody. No, I got to give a huge shout out to the people of South Africa. Absolutely lovely people. Cannabis there, world class. We attended called the Amber Cup, which is thrown by Myrtle and M in South Africa and have for years. It's a concentrates cup, so that's why it's called the Amber Cup. And
Mm.
fucking world class, man. I mean, we of course had our some wonderful guests from South Africa on a few months ago, and wow, they delivered all across the board. Quality of concentrates very high. The Amber Cup happens in October. I plan to be there next year again because my friend Myrtle enjoys taking the vacation, and that's what we did. Is we spent a week in Kruger National Park with and I photographed everything except leopards, rhinos, cheetahs, and pangolins. Everything else I got photos of. So literally
Wow.
over almost 1,000 photos. So I'll be dropping them as you saw. Just that's just a teaser of some of them. But yeah, I got, hyenas. As you saw in the pictures, they're nursing. Very rare to ever see, things like that. But 20 feet from the car, there they are. Just mom's laid out, and the kids are like, "What's up?" So, no, the cannabis is amazing. The laws there, they have some of the best laws in the world. Cannabis is part of their constitution. Do
What?
better, America. Do better, Canada. Do better, people. They're the quality of cannabis. It's all outdoor. You can't grow indoor due to electricity realities there. It's first world yet third world areas. So, people stealing electricity all the time, and that causes power grids to go down. So, if you were
Mm.
actually going to do that, you better have a backup generator and a backup generator to that, and then you better have top electricity surrounding your place because people will try to steal, your pumps and all kinds of other stuff. So it's a different reality, needless to say, and how they deal with and how the police handle. Your car is a legal place for you to smoke, which isn't in a lot of places in the world. So, they can't search your car or anything for cannabis, even if they smell it. It's
Mm.
considered legal and not a problem. However, they have changed the laws via the court system. And so the problem that they have in South Africa is the country or the ANC, which was great in liberating South Africa, but has done an absolute terrible job of actually running South Africa. It's basically everybody's taking care of their own, and it's really, really the disparity that I saw in Johannesburg as well as in Cape Town. I mean, it tells the entire story. I mean, it's from the richest of the rich, which I saw in Johannesburg with a gentleman who had like a 20-car glass garage for you to see his Lamborghinis and everything else, behind bulletproof glass, etc., to, the poorest of the poor. So, I mean, it was humbling. Um, Again, the people of Africa were absolutely so beautiful and kind and generous and willing to share absolutely anything and everything. So I came away with a spectacular situation as I stayed on the jazz farm at Myrtle's place. So I got to hang out in their cannabis gardens. I got to hang out and see everything that they're, you know, that's happening, and what they have going on is spectacular. They're constantly educating. Um, it reminded me a lot of my early days at Cannes. They have a whole group that hangs there. People are calling, asking about their rights, what they can and can't do. It's just very special, and so I can't say enough on that, absolutely how um, wonderful I was treated and respected, as well as the hash community there is on point. The quality is world class. There were only 5 entries in the competition this year, and that's just due to timing and everything else. But there was numerous other past winners who were there and showing their wares that they didn't, and boy, it should have been. And I was gifted, as you saw from my Instagram post. That's a stash I took with me to Kruger National Park, which was makes the experience of photographing, large animals. And the key thing about Kruger people, you can't get out of your car. You will get fucking killed, eaten, destroyed. It's just not fucking around. Literally 10 feet away from your car is elephants, wildebeests, it's wild nature, man. So humbling, beautiful. Did some microdosing along the way too, which of course made it even more special. And yeah, shout out to Myrtle and the whole entire Jazz Farm crew. So that's
Awesome.
I'm still soaking it in. I got a lot more to consider, but that's all I'll say for now.
Sounds absolutely amazing, dude. I wish I could have been there. It looked absolutely spectacular. It seems like the whole South Africa crew are just awesome people. I was lucky enough to meet Myrtle and some of the other folks you were with in Spain this last year in March at the last Spanibus in Barcelona. So I guess the plan is to move it up to Basque Country, Bilbao, which is definitely a very unique city. It's got some pretty trippy art-like buildings in there. It's very different from Barcelona. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it doesn't change up too much. I feel like the hardcores will always make it. I feel like we might lose some of that bottom group that might have gone to Barcelona but won't make the attempt to go to Bilbao. But hopefully, we see as many of you there as possible. I am really going to try to make it there. If I do make it there, I really want to bring my wife. I think that would be spectacular. Um, yeah, just had a nice little nature visit myself. For those of you that follow my social media, I went and hiked up to this place called Joffrey Lake. It was my wife's birthday wish to go up to Joffrey Lake. There's actually 3 lakes at Joffrey. There's Lower Lake about 5 minutes from the parking lot, and then about maybe about an hour from the parking lot, you get to the middle lake, and then maybe about, an hour and 40 minutes plus 2 hours, you're in the upper lake, which is just absolutely, completely insane and spectacular. And I will actually throw up one of those shots because it is just really that beautiful. Joffrey Lake, this was just kind of the entrance to Joffrey Lake before we really made it in very far. My wife doing her thing. Just spectacular mountains. My daughter just enjoying myself with my family. Like, look at that water. Like, it's absolutely insane that you can just go to places like this. So it's, when you see myself make posts or Etienne or anyone else, if you can get out in the world, do it. You know what I mean? Sometimes that Joffrey Lake, it was fairly close for us. It's just about an hour north of Whistler. So we were able to, go up to Whistler, stay a few nights, and then just in the middle of the day, one day, just boot up there and hike for a couple of hours. It's pretty much straight up that you're hiking the entire time, but the forest is just surreal, beautiful. Like you can't even believe how pretty everything is. It's truly surreal. Um, and shout out to Puffco because I definitely want to thank them for the new piece. They sent me this new little proxy haze, and I haven't done this in a long time, but this pipe, there's something old school about it, and so I stuck a little piece of full melt on there. And I've just been smoking the full melt off my pipe. And for those of you that are following me for a long enough time, realize that I have been puffing and sticking hash to my pipes for a very, very long time. I mean, I actually had Marble Slinger, I think it was Slinger, it could have been Brian, make me a pipe that had a small, I can't remember what we called it. It was like a podium that came out of the pipe. It was this tiny little spot for me to stick my hash because I always used to do that. And so it was nice to come back and stick my hash on my pipe again. And I'll tell you, just now I had it plugged in because if you have, these little electronic pipes, the best thing for you to do is keep them plugged in, or they tend to die when you're a chronic puffer like myself. And so the pipe got so warm from charging it that this hash is now absolute like just melted chocolate. I can't even get it off the. You can see how. There we go,
I,
right
I
there.
I used both. I had two peaks, used them, and then pardon me, yeah, and I proxies, pardon me, and I donated them to Fields of Green for All.
I
So
saw
have
you
those
do that. That's
sitting in.
great, dude.
They're, they have great hash and cannabis. They just don't have apparatus. And the reality is that it's expensive to import anything into South Africa. And
Of
there were,
course.
I saw some Dr. Dabbers and, some Puffcos and things going around, but they need more apparatus, definitely for sure. So thanks, shout out to Puffco for their awesome support. But I also saw that Jolly Roger was talking about the gentleman, the American who got caught with the gummies over in Asia. And so I engaged him. And so he actually wants to get involved with the stuff we're doing at the UN to affect some change. So shout
Beautiful.
out to Jolly and the crew. I'll be meeting with them next week to discuss, further operations and that we're working on at the UN because we're trying to stop executions. And that's the problem is this guy is, he imported gummies and now they're threatening to execute him potentially. And now they're talking about, well, not executing him, but now life in prison. Either just terrible and have absolutely no right. So that's one reason why the group that we work with, Cannabis Embassy, is working at the goal, along with Myrtle and the wonderful people from South Africa, we're working towards removing cannabis from the most dangerous drug categories for adult use. So this can't happen anymore. So that people can't be executed, they can't be jailed for life. It's legal worldwide. So we still got years to go. It's only 2025, but that's the work and the reality of activism. It takes time, it takes energy, and it takes years. It's not something that's done quick. I mean, there are some actions that can happen quickly, but when you work, it took 10 years for our friends at the Cannabis Embassy to change international law in 2020 to make it legal for medical cannabis worldwide. So that's about what it takes international with dedicated activist people. It takes about a decade. And so we've been working for 5 years now to arrive at that goal of 2030, and we're getting there, but we're going to have to rewrite the actual treaty and remove poppies, uh, cannabis, and coca plants from the actual treaty. We have to have plants out because there's already exceptions for plants if they have medicinal use. Well, all three of those plants have medicinal use and should not be banned or in the sense of worldwide. So the reality is that we're going to have to force that change to rewrite the treaty to do that. And that takes a lot of energy as well as coordinated efforts around the world. It took, 60 to almost 80 countries for us to stop the whole kratom illegality at the international level, which we were able to stop. However, now we're seeing states like California actually make it illegal. Um, and wait, is that Russ? In fact,
That's
like
Russ.
the man, the gold medal winner himself.
Hey guys,
Cha.
Cha, I made
Dude,
it.
you are a fucking legend. Holy shit.
Oh, you're too modest. Well, sometimes I feel that way. Other times I feel like just a father who's struggling through life. So,
Well, I'll
you know,
tell you,
That's part of life.
it's great to have you on here. I don't think we've ever met, but I've been watching your social media, and I'm just like, we got to get this guy on Hash Church. He belongs on Hash Church. So I really appreciate you showing up today, bro. Really.
thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. I need to get out there more in the world. I'm in my little bubble up here, like my world. So I need to get out, get out there.
We love
So,
Bubble here, so you're in the right place.
Right. Right on, man. Well, I don't want to like interrupt whatever you guys are talking about. I don't even know how this formatting goes. So I'm just here to like,
It's really organic and loose. Etienne just got back from South Africa, so he's telling us a little bit about the cup there and some of the pictures that he took in this incredible, wildlife sanctuary, and talked a little bit about Myrtle, who is there and who hosts him. And we were just actually started talking about a gentleman who got caught, I'm guessing somewhere in Asia, with gummies.
oh, was this the basketball player? Is that guy? Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
caught wind of that. I didn't know. I hear he's in trouble.
Yeah, he imported gummies, and they initially were talking execution, but now they're talking
Oh,
life.
what
That's
country
so
is this?
wild. That is
So,
nuts.
Russ, for those who aren't aware, this we're talking to Russ Rebagliati. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And you won a gold medal years ago for Canada, I do believe.
Oh,
Yes.
no, that's
Oh,
hilarious. You misinterpreted.
oh, I did. I heard. I humaned.
That's Ross. I could invite Ross one day.
Oh, I humaned.
I remember
He's
you and
Okay.
I met Ross together, Marcus. I remember you holding the medal. Like, I'll never forget it. You're like, dude, this is just insane how heavy this is.
he
I'll never
always
forget
has
you
that
saying
medal
that.
with him, dude. I guess I would too if I won a gold medal. I would probably do the same thing, but no, no, this is Russ from Cha Education, another cannabis educator, and really like at a high level, like going into. I know Dragonfly Earth Medicine's coming in later, so I know that we'll get into a really good conversation about what you're doing. And in fact, at one point, maybe now, would be a great time to just give us a little introduction, a little breakdown on how long you've been doing this.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah,
humble where you're doing this, and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's a great place to start. So, my name is Russell Pace. I founded the Cannabis Horticultural Association, otherwise colloquially known as CHA, in
Ah,
2016. Um, I'd been in Humboldt since 2006. I was a geologist before that out of college down in Orange County, SoCal, and soil science and hydrogeology, groundwater chemistry were kind of like passion. So it's like, I was growing a little bit, started in college way back in the day. It actually started my whole life path with cannabis started when I was 12. I had this crazy opportunity to go to Tibet. I was in Eastern Tibet in like 91 or 92, I think. And I
Whoa,
just
Rustic.
started growing there. It was a pretty wild. There's Josh.
Hey, brother,
And
keep going. I didn't know I was on.
so I saw cannabis growing in Eastern Tibet in like 91, 92. And I just sort of like, it was like this, I don't know, it was just this affinity to it growing there. And ever since that, it's just been like this integral part of my life. I think actually what really put me on the path, my parents bought me Jack Herer's book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes. And it was like funny because they thought they were just like doing something fun for me, but then it like radically changed my whole perception on
What year
the
was that?
government.
Which edition?
I don't remember. I think I have it around here somewhere. It was, I mean, they
That's
bought it
great.
for me in like, it would have been in like 1999 or,
So
something like that. So I don't know which edition it was.
that's
Um,
great.
it was a great experience. Anyway, so fast forward, blah, blah, blah. I moved up to Humboldt in 2006, sort of disillusioned with the, corporate structure. And I just started, picking up the pace with growing. And I just threw my whole life into growing at that point. Before that, I was like, your little one or two lighter closet grows studying. And it really, picked up. So, anyways, and then just growing, I moved to Eastern Humboldt where it's much more arid. People think of Humboldt as like wet rainforest, trees. But Eastern Humboldt is like a Mediterranean climate where it has huge diurnal swings in the summer. It'll be 110 in the day, 50 60 at night sometimes, like crazy big swings. And it's very arid and dry in the summer. So, anyways, I lived there for a long time. I recently just moved to Southern Oregon. We bounced out of California after I was in there for like 16, 18 years. So we had to, it was just, it was time to get out of California for a litany of reasons I won't go into. So, anyways, I've been doing CHA, a little bit of consulting on the side. And then in the later phase, I've been moving heavily into seed breeding. seed production and breeding. And that's been the mainstay of my growth at this point. So I've been stuck in Instagram for a long time, just posting, but it's been a good platform for me to grow on. But I'm just grateful for you guys to get the opportunity to, engage on platforms like this. Like I see Josh all over the place. So I'm just glad, finally getting out there.
Josh is all over the place.
Yeah, he is.
That's
guys
awesome.
are
Well, we're stoked to
everywhere.
have you, man. Go ahead,
Thanks.
Josh and Kelly. How you guys doing?
We're good. It's really nice to see you on here, Russell. And, those of you all who don't know his work and his breeding, he's really been in it for a very long time, definitely a legacy breeder. The first moment that we, met you, Russell, we were talking degenerate stuff, talking closed loop, talking plants, feeding plants. Really, your work is really beautiful in the industry and it really shows. So
Thanks.
it's good to see you on here today.
I have this like funny memory. I remember when I first came in contact with Dragonfly, my neighbor actually was talking about something called natural mystic. I was like, what is that? Like, what? And he like showed me this funny little mason jar full of this powder. And I'm like, I was like intrigued. And I was like, wait, this is like plants. Like, this is like herbs. Like, what? Like, what is, so it was really cool. It was like a good intro into that. And yeah, Dragonfly makes the best, I've learned a lot. I'll be honest. Like I've learned, they put me on track to really like expand my awareness and knowledge of plants. So I appreciate them for that. Thank you so much.
That's what they do for us too. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Just putting us on track.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very much so reciprocated. Everyone here is just feeding each other all that love and
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
vibration,
It's a,
love and vibration. So it's very much so recycling. So
well, you know what? On that note, and I saw people in I was thinking it myself, but I just saw people in the chat room. I think it was Bingo Lombardi who said, I miss Wade's kind words on Hash Church. And I've been thinking about Wade and Sam so much lately. Yeah, I just want to shout those guys out and, shout their families out, let them know that they're just so deeply loved. They're continually deeply loved. What they've done and the work that they put out into the world. And I haven't held these in my hand for a while, but I've been holding Sam's ashes this morning since the show started. They've just been in my hand here. So rest in peace to Skunkman Sam. May you become cannabis and resin all around the world and be smoked and get many, many, many people high. I know that was your dream and your wish. And I'm hoping on getting some nice skunk and haze to drop your ashes into, my good friend, and to produce some beautiful resin in your honor, which is what his wish was. So just wanted to say that. Shout out to him. Shout out to our friends, our missing
shout out to
friends.
Diana. Much love to Diana. I've been thinking about her as well. I know she hurt her shoulder recently and things. So,
Yeah, sending love.
on that healing mission on multiple levels, as well as Monica. So, always thinking about the family members that are left behind as well, as much as the journey of the deceased and that spiritual path. Always thinking about, Colin as well. There's been a good amount of loss in the family. So I appreciated all their words, of course. And I know maybe we don't mention Wade quite as much since he left. So I'd also like to just point out how incredibly moving his voice was and his intention. And we also remember first meeting up with him and just hearing about the healing train of how cannabis kind of turned from everyone wants to talk about, oh, it's high THC, harder than ever. When you were 70s, it was nothing. And now, but then that time of CBD and Ringo and that whole thing of that coming in it did change the cannabis industry and
Change the channel.
it changed the channel. Click, click, click. Thanks, Wade. And as never did he open his mouth that everyone wasn't listening, so.
And we always think of the word legend as something from the past, but these are legends of the future. A lot of their words are going to even make more sense in the future than what they made sense to us as they were currently coming out of their mouths. I really feel like a lot of the work that Skunkman Sam did is so futuristic that we're not even going to catch up to him, maybe even until after we pass. So I love that these two men are legacies of the future, and Guaranteed Way's words are the same, and the way that he pieced them together and the way that he drew heartstrings are words that, a lot of people only in the future will truly be able to resonate with. So I'm super thankful for them.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
that picture I showed was Sam in the garden there in South Africa at the Jazz Farm. So he is continuing to grow and share his love with the world, as well as a reminder. We're also working on having a side event at the United Nations to honor Wade and the work that he did and to celebrate the work that he did. And that will be with a side event in March at the official UN meeting in Vienna, Austria.
Well,
Crazy.
I'll tell you, I miss him so much. I don't think it would be inappropriate to share a little Wade video right now. One of my favorites. I'm gonna put it up and take your time, roll a joint. It's about 8 or 9 minutes. I think it's worth listening to.
I've really been thinking about what is compassion? And I think compassion is it's a verb. It's an action word. One can feel empathy for another person's situation. And that's a beautiful thing. That's how we grow our hearts. That's how we grow our understanding of who we are and where we are in the world. But compassion comes into play when you do something about the suffering of another person. Yeah, compassion is a verb. I think my closing thing for me is to spend less time trying to figure out, how and why things are the way they are, and more time opening my heart to, hey, look at what's going on, and what can we do about it? Um, yeah. So I think I'm gonna close on that, to celebrate your life, to give thanks for who you are. Uh, However you can find that within yourself, give thanks for who you are, because there's in the whole wide world, there's like 8 billion human beings, and a billion is like a huge number. It's really not imaginable for any of us. That's how big it is. But there's 8 of those human beings on the planet, and we're all pretty much the same. And yet, when you get down to the nitty-gritty details, there's not one of us that's the same as another. And when you really consider that, you start realizing how important you as an individual really are. Because nature took the time to create a unique version of the human being, unlike any other of the 8 billion. And that could appear wasteful, but in fact, there's an artful grace to it all. So trust, love yourself. That's all I got. I will say this, that if the only thing that's constant is change, it's a really good idea to get used to that idea, to go with it instead of trying to fight it. Because there's another nice image. And I think this one's really relevant in romance. If you have a relationship that you really love, treat it like a butterfly sitting in the palm of your hand. And if you keep your palm open and in the sun, and be careful about how you relate to that butterfly, because again, this is a precious and beautiful thing that we're talking about here, a romantic relationship that not only works, but fulfills you and your partner. This is not an easy thing to achieve. But if you happen to have that, you can view it as a butterfly sitting in your hand. And as soon as you try and close your hand, if the butterfly can, it will fly away. But if it can't, you'll crush the wings of this being that you love so much. And what I've come to realize for myself is that it's way too easy to crush the wings of someone you love. And they might recover from it or come back. But I really encourage anyone who cares about this sort of thing to recognize that, yes, you will change. Things in your life that you enjoy now, that will change. And, if you play your cards right, the change might be something you really love and appreciate and enjoy, because that's certainly possible. That's certainly possible. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna stop there. Enjoy what you have and celebrate it. Be grateful. I think it makes
I want to stop that there because I want to save the last half of that video. And thank you to Ed who made that video and compiled all those videos together. I want to save it for the end of Hash Church and let Wade close out Hash Church, as we always let him. And gosh, that gets me teary-eyed. And it just makes me think this perspective of the humanness and the love that seems to be integrated into one particular way of growing cannabis that seems to be at a different level than the others, which seems to be this living soil. This it's almost this living love. And when you hear the dragonfly and the chas and the wades speak about it, you can kind of feel it in your heart. It's not quite the same, as a bunch of gangsters going and buying like salt newts and growing up some cannabis. It's a little bit different, and yeah, I just felt that deep in my heart listening to Wade. I needed that actually this morning. I haven't heard Wade's. I miss Wade. I really, really miss Wade.
It's okay to miss him. He was a wonderful spirit and taught all of us, and he shared a lot of himself and his truth rang true with many of us. And I'm thankful he was here. I'm thankful he was able to share his wisdom. I'm thankful we were able to be able to hear him because we hear him even clearer now in his absence. And if you didn't realize how special he was before, you see the impact that he's had on all of us. And I was proud to call him friend. I was proud to um, serve alongside him at the work that we were doing at the Veterans Action Council, because he was a key spokesperson to that, because of we were working on things, and he felt that even though he was homebound, he was able to achieve something, and I felt proud to be able to have a platform that allowed him to do that, and humbled that he was able to come along and teach us and to continue to teach us. So nothing but love and respect to you, Marcus. It's we're right to miss him. He was so special, and it's okay to cry. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to miss. Um, but at least we had him. Fuck, we were so lucky.
Yeah, Marcus, I mean, I was thinking about him the other day. It's ironic for you to bring him up like this because we're so lucky to have that wisdom and the things that showed up for, in life were just all inspiring. So it's natural to feel that way.
I mean,
Um,
not even that, just the fact that he was willing to spend so much time with us at the end of his life,
yeah,
like coming on to church every week. When, of
yeah,
course, all of us were, he's going to make it. We're going to, Wade's going to get healthier. But in reality, he was
yeah.
dying. He was passing away on Hash Church, and he was sharing that with us every week, which is such a vulnerable, intimate thing to share with us. I've never had anyone share that with me in my life on that level. And he
Right.
shared it with all of us, not just the panelists. He shared it
All the
with
viewers.
all of the viewers as well, which was, yeah, he touched a lot of people, and we don't have to ever forget him. We always get to remember him. And I've got so much great footage of him talking on Hash Church over the last 7 or 8 years or however long, because he came on quite a while ago as well. So lots of good memories of Wade. Monica is in the chat right now. He so loved being on Hash Church. You guys gave him so much. Well, he sure gave us a lot as well, as did you, Monica. I'm glad you're here. I sent her a little text letting her know, hey, we're all crying in Hash Church talking about Wade. We were showing some videos of Wade. I will show more videos of Wade. I will show that video that I had. It's about a 10-minute collage of videos that Ed put together for us. And there's about 4.5 minutes left of that. So I'll put that on as the closing statements of Hash Church. Did you know Wade, Russ?
I was going to mention that. No, I didn't really know Wade. I sort of remotely watched it, but I'll tell you this: as I get older, I don't know. I have a reverence for the old timers, and there's something. People need to go back and listen to those clips because there's such deep wisdom in what he's saying. Especially for someone who's knowing the end is near. There's such a deep understanding of the simplicity of life embedded in those statements. That's like this resonance of the higher truth of what it means to be human and why we need to listen and follow the idea of compassion as a verb. That's a fascinating idea. People, it's like you hear it, but it's like this, you need to feel it. There's a feeling that goes along with it. And I think it's that feeling of being human that is what is, for lack of a better word, the more true path forward. Like we're so caught up in this material world of possessions and me, and there's this essence to what Wade is describing is like, it's almost like a Christ-like essence of what it means to be human, to care for others, and care, and sort of it's like caring for the plant, caring, it's like this something outside of you that you're caring for, but it brings something back in return. I don't know. I'm kind of rambling here, but
Well, Russ, you also carry his torch. What you've been doing with Cha for years has been educating. And that's one of the things that Wade implored is to expand your mind, and education was still key because there's still, unfortunately, a lot of ignorance out there. So,
yeah, yeah. There's
thank you for carrying that torch because that's not easy to do. I've been doing it for 30 years and not at the level that you're doing it. And that's commendable because, that's something that still has to happen and it's still done one person at a time. And that's one thing that Wade was key on. We still affect each other one person at a time. And you just have to take that time and energy to share, and respect to you for stepping outside of your comfort zone because you've been sharing for decades. So
And we've
respect.
been really enjoying your content and your speaking and your conversations. And I mean, it's powerful, it's clever. We are often like in the same mindset as you, so it's a nice validation and it's also new ideas to think about. So yeah, big up, brother. It's been
thanks, Doug.
really
Appreciate it.
sweet.
Well, it's like, it takes a village to raise a child. And if we're all here together, we're sort of raising the children of Earth, so to speak, of course, to like, bring awareness and understanding of this connection that we have as humans to step outside of this capitalistic driven model and follow the higher path, which is unity and connection and reverence for nature and life. And it's really great. I'm thankful for Wade for being, all that he is, and it's just we'll carry it on.
Yeah, yeah.
Monica says, I think Wade showed us how to transcend the transactional tendencies we can have around love and compassion. He embodied unconditional love. For me, it was his bravery and his courage of facing the end, not curled up under a blanket, but like publicly on a camera. And the more his voice got weaker, the stronger his message became.
Yes, that's a great message. Yes, agreed. I feel like I would try to follow the same path. Like at the end, you try to give as much everyone as much info as you can about what you've experienced. It's a
Well,
very powerful
we're all
thing.
going out, right? We're all going to go
Yes.
out, and a lot of us are afraid, whether consciously or subconsciously. What's scarier than the game ending, right? For a
Right.
lot of
Well, I will say
people.
this, just on a side note, I have been, I don't know why, but incredibly fascinated with NDEs, these near death experiences. And for anyone that's interested, if you just go on YouTube, you can watch hundreds of testimonies. It's the most fascinating thing. It will really change your perspective on the continuity of consciousness. It's a fascinating thing to watch.
Um,
I've seen some of what you're talking about, and it definitely is fascinating. It's wild
I
to see
experienced it.
people wake up. You've had one, eh, Etienne?
Oh yeah, I died in when in 91 during the Operation Desert Storm when I got my knee ripped backwards. I went into a heat stroke, my third one in country, and I died. I flatlined.
Really?
And yeah, I came to on the helicopter and I almost punched the medic, poor guy, because I didn't know what was happening. Now, which is weird because I could hear absolutely everything going on around me.
Mm-hmm.
Was completely surreal from when they picked me up and put me on the helicopter. I could hear it, but when I consciously woke up, I had no idea where the fuck I was and what had happened. And yeah, I was out for a solid 10 minutes or so, and it was just black. Um, didn't see or hear anything except what was around me. And then they got my heart going again, and then I woke up, and it changed my life completely. I mean, that's one reason why I've dedicated my life to cannabis because I don't really have that fear of death anymore, and I didn't have that fear of going to jail anymore because um, I I knew what was worst can happen. I'm going back to the void, and I grew up Catholic. I grew up my brothers and sisters are heavily Mormon and I'm an agnostic atheist. Just through my life and experiences and that death experience, I did not meet or see anything. And when the chaplain came to talk to me about it, he got a stern fucking ear and went away not happy because I was coming to terms with what had happened, and I still think about it and try to come to terms with it, but. I know it's going to happen again, as you said, Marcus, and it's coming for all of us. And I consider my second rebirth that chance, and that's why I took the risk that I have. And, you know, Berkeley Patient Group turns 26 years old this week. So, it's also about stepping outside of your fear. And once you can get past death, anything's achievable, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a heavy narrative story that we tell ourselves. And I never myself died, but I definitely left my body in a psychedelic high. And for me, that was all I needed. That when my father, who passed away in a motorcycle accident 20 years ago, because he didn't die the same way as, say, Wade, he didn't have any time to say all the words Wade got to say. His words were ended extremely abruptly. And for me, that was pretty crushing. I was unable to deal with it, aside from the fact that my consciousness had existed outside of my body. And that brought me such comfort in knowing that, okay, so my dad isn't this meat puppet. He's
Mhm.
actually this energy that was operating that meat puppet, right? He was in a
Yeah.
simulation. And so that just got me through it for whatever reason. I mean, I was still, in terrible shape for a long time, and it was sad, as we all are sad. It sucks to watch your parents be decimated and die of cancer or disease, Parkinson's, like Colin had to watch. I certainly don't think it's easier but nice to have those words to be able to just say those words, like the sudden death is just so instantly. They're just both have their own sort of terriblenesses, but they also both have their very deep learning lessons. And my dad taught me about the shocking fast ones, and as did Skunkman Sam, and Wade taught me about the slower ones and how to do it with grace.
Mm, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. When the whole reason, someone said today, I can't believe Hash Church has been on for 11 years. First of all, Hash Church was not planned. There was no plan for Hash Church. When YouTube sent me an email saying, "Hey, you now qualify to go live." And this was like 11 years ago before you could go live on social media, unless you were on the Kick app, which is QIK. You could kind of do streaming through that app prior to YouTube and some of the larger platforms adding it to their quiver. However, it didn't exist before I got that email, and I didn't even understand what it was. I was like, go live, like Kick, like I can just go live and people will come in. I was like, okay, I'll try this. And it was a Sunday morning, and I just, we used to gather on Sunday mornings. I was brought up Catholic. I went to church, and later on when I had my store, The Melting Point, my friend Amir from Turkey, who had this amazing restaurant across the street called Rhyme, which just happened to be his name backwards, Rime. We used to go to his place and we'd call it church, and we'd just smoke all Sunday. We'd go over to Amir's and just smoke, 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 smoke. So those things in that moment, 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning, I just punched in Hash Church. It was completely a fluke. And then for it to happen the way it happened, and to, I like the idea of my YouTube channel. And I'll be honest, I was building my YouTube channel for me. I was building it for me and for my business and to see what I could do and what I could make. And when Hash Church came along, I started thinking, maybe it's not about you. Maybe you're a vessel. Maybe this isn't about you. Maybe there's some incredible people out there that you could be offering a platform to. And I was like, well, I don't have much of a platform. I've done one live video. So the first live Hash Church, I just sent out links on my social media to anyone who saw them could come in. And it was neat. Within 3 Hash Church, I had a panel of people who have been coming for 11 years. Like, I don't know how it happened. So thank you all for, first of all, watching Hash Church, being a part of Hash Church. And 11 years later, and we're still bringing in new folks, like it was so exciting to invite Russ on. I was like, oh my God, like there's so many incredible people. And when I don't look for it and when I don't avidly search, and I will say, I got to give it up to Skunkman Sam, because no one researched the cannabis industry and the cannabis community like Skunkman Sam. He knew everything that was going on at all times. He had his finger on the pulse. He never had blinders on. His blinders were pulled back as far as they could be pulled back. That's what 100 hits of acid will do to you. And they just couldn't be put back on. And that was one of the things I took from Sam, was to just, when I first met Sam, he was very strong egoed. He was very like, I mean, to the point of almost rudeness. Like if he wanted to talk to you and there was someone talking to you already, he would step right between you, put his back right to the person and talk to you. And it was a bit shocking. I had never kind of witnessed that level of rudeness in public before, but as I got to know Sam, I realized it was just how his brain operated, and he wasn't really trying to be rude. It's that he was on this mission to collect as much data and information and experience as possible, and anything that was going to slow that down had no time. He had no time for whatsoever. Of course, he became much softer in his older age, and he became much more open. But that was part of the allure when I met Sam, that no one really knew him and that it was such a small group of people. And getting invited to his apartment was like, people were like, "You're going to Sam's apartment?" And I guess so. I don't know. The whole thing was just like a movie, really. And here we are, all these years later, still writing the script. So thank you all for being in the movie. And Dr. Mark, welcome with your fish hat on. Look, I
Hey,
caught
what's
him off
going
guard.
on?
He was
Yeah.
studying chemistry.
I was on mute. How's it going, everybody? Yeah, it was like pushing back tears when I was watching the Wade thing. So it's
Yeah.
definitely, Yeah, I mean, like the Joni Mitchell song says, right? Or you don't know what you got till it's gone. And you don't, I guess, there's so many things in life. Like you look in the rearview mirror, and I tell my kids all the time, if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're bound to repeat them. And so, yeah, you find is that the more older people you talk to that just have more wealth of experience, the more you can gain from, you know, the elder statesmen. That's why I think it was always in most cultures you respect your elders because if you're having problems, chances are they had problems too, and they could probably, you know, teach you how to solve them. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
saw I
I
saw
mean,
someone say a similar thing where it was like the youth have to listen to the elder and the elder have to listen to the youth. And when you have that set up in that full loop, that's the way it works best. It's not about only, listening to the youth or only listening to the elders. It's just teaching and understanding that respect that it's a both way thing. And of course the elders have already been there, and so they have this incredible ability to share, but the youth are creating something the elder have never experienced. And if they want to stay, with the finger on the pulse, much like Sam did, because he was always there. As old as he got, Sam was never not there. He was always
yeah,
right at the top of the whatever it was. It could be chemistry, for God's sakes, Dr. Mark. He didn't have a PhD in chemistry. He collected PhD chemists to explain
but
to him certain things.
you appreciate especially Marcus because you lost your father at such an early age, and I've seen this happen with other friends that I've known that have lost either parent. I mean, it's so devastating to not have that role model in your life anymore. And somebody that, my dad, my mom and dad are both still alive. My dad is 89, my mom is 88. And yeah, just to speak about this, we went and saw the new Springsteen movie yesterday. And it was like don't go to that movie expecting to see a biopic on the whole life of Bruce Springsteen from, being a kid to growing up. This specifically is looking at that album called Nebraska, which came out after The River but before Born in the USA. And he was a big superstar, certainly he was on Columbia Records, and there was just expectations that he would just turn out radio hit after radio hit. And he came out with this Nebraska thing. And what you learned from the movie was, yeah, he had a very troubled relationship with his dad growing up. I guess his dad was a alkie, and uh, you know, also it was implied just in the movie that maybe he was abused, that he abused that his mother was abused and he was abused. But yeah, I mean, just going back to the relationship that you have with your father and your parents in general. I mean, like you you when you first look out of the crib, right? We were all babies at one point, right? When we first look out of the crib and you see that person there. In fact, I think a lot of the first words that kids say is either dad, 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 right? Dad. I always thought it would be cool if it was dab, right? You could change the vernacular from baby's first words being dad to dab. But and being a father myself, what I can say is that it really changes your life as being that role model in someone's life. Very important. At least I think it's very, I mean, I grew up with a very strong father figure, and I'm sure like some of you here on the panel probably grew up with uh, strong father figures. Maybe you've lost
Oh yeah.
fathers. I mean,
The
it,
strongest.
it becomes again somebody that you want to please. You want to do good in your life, and you want to be able to bring kids in the world because you're there to please your parents in a certain way, or like gain their respect as being, oh yeah, I was the little baby in the crib or the little toddler, out on the driveway fumbling over the bike, or learning little league. I mean, being a parent, as you know, Marcus, because you're a dedicated parent, it's an incredible, awesome responsibility.
Hmm.
And having like people like Wade who you know, it's great to have other male role models in your life other than your dad. And I think maybe that's what you've learned because you lost your dad, right? So people
That's
like
right.
Sam and people like Wade maybe were sharing that elder wisdom that
Oh
maybe
yeah.
you would have got from your dad if he was still around, right?
100%. 100%. Diana
Totally.
would tell me, she probably told me 3 or 4 times. She'd pull me aside and she'd say, you're the son that David never had.
Yeah,
And I was like, well, he's the dad that I don't have right now.
right.
So
What a
what a
compliment to get.
synergistic. Oh, dude, I
Both
mean,
both
listen, I
ways, the
had no
compliment of
idea.
the son you never had to the dad you never had. I mean,
Of course.
it's such a it's a relationship that goes beyond, you know, just friendship, right? Because there's an inherent trust and you know you can be yourself. You don't have to put on some facade or wear some ego driven, you know, kind of fictitious person of who you think you are, especially in this
Hmm.
age of influencers and internet. And you see everything on Instagram that looks great about all these lives, but what you don't realize is, yeah, there's all kinds of depression. I didn't realize how Springsteen was truly depressed. At least, I don't know. This is the way that the movie plays it, is that at that point in his career, he had been such a huge superstar that it was, you know, the typical story where they're alone. They're inside this fame bubble, right? And he had difficulty even having relationships with people. And I think that was one of the reasons why I think he came out with this album, Nebraska, was completely stripped down. And, you know, he tried to bring it to the studio and have the E Street Band record it, but I guess he didn't like the way it came out. And they ended up using the cassette as recorded in his bedroom as the release Nebraska. And without a tour or without any, you know, PR from CBS, it still got to number three on the charts. It was a huge success.
They
But
don't
people
call him
thought
the
it was
boss for
weird, right?
nothing.
People
It's
thought it was
true.
weird because they were used to getting, you know, Jungle Land you know, these huge radio hits, and here's this stripped down guy. And then what you learn, I guess, in the movie again is that it was this troubled relationship that he had with his dad, which he just needed to pour out in the record.
Dude,
So
well, I'll tell
yeah,
you, full
definitely worth
circle,
going to see.
full circle, Bruce Springsteen was one of my father's all-time favorite musicians.
Look at that.
I'm gonna share a picture of my dad and my stepmom, Marie. It's a little bit blurry. They're out on the motorcycle, the very same motorcycle they passed away on, in fact. But this is prior to that, and it just makes me happy. I was like, you know what? I'll show a picture of my dad on Hash Church today, and Boro, yes, I hear you. Your dad passed away when you were 18. He's like, we need to talk about hash now. Enough of this. Enough of this about our past fathers.
Well, I just wanted to take a second because I know that Monica's listening. And although, we talk about Wade coming on week after week and putting out the energy week after week and making it happen, that also, is Monica behind the scenes. And Monica, I just want to tell you, first of all, I love you and I appreciate you for giving us Wade. I appreciate you for caretaking him to be able to help set him in front of the camera, to bestow his wisdom. You allowed us, Wade, with your support, with your love, with unbelievable compassion, empathy, fucking all of it. And I appreciate you so much. And so often we don't talk about the people and the caretakers, who are dealing with people at death's door. And it's a magical time. And I know for sure that you would never take it back for anything, nothing, nothing. And I know that. But you have shown us, and it's what I thought about week after week. Every time you showed up, I would be like, wow, thanks, Monica. You've shown us so much through your caretaking of such an incredible, beautiful man. So thank you with all of my heart.
I will ditto that because I couldn't say it any better. Just give it a ditto.
and probably add it to Diana as well, because I would imagine she facilitated that as well in the same way. So
Absolutely.
yeah, much love to the community, and it's very important. That's what the thing is. I think maybe what we're learning here is just how important community is. We're biological creatures where we are the polyculture, we're the mixture. Like together we become like a chord, alone we're just one note off in the distance, together we ring like a symphony. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Maybe some questions for Russ, because he's our sort of special guest today in regard, and you guys are here as well. So regenerative roots for premium hash. Cha emphasizes regenerative agriculture and cannabis. How can growers adapt soil building techniques like cover cropping or microbial inoculation to maximize volatile organic compound profiles? I call them VOCs instead of terpenes. Everyone says terpene profiles, but they're volatile organic compounds. If they were only terpenes, I'd call them terpenes. But yeah, profiles and resin production specifically for bubble hash extraction, you know?
Well, there's a lot to that. Let me think through this. Just give me it's download. I'm getting the download. Just hold on. The first thing that comes to mind is obviously like genetics are probably more important. Like you have like fat heads with narrow stems, like that's going to be like the genetic of the plant is like probably more important than how like what other things you do to cultivate the secondary metabolites or VOCs. I like that. But there's all sorts of, I mean, clearly like we're still at the very early stages of understanding the complexity of soil biology. And there's, obviously more biology in the soil allows for the proliferation of the root exudates to communicate and like send signals, right? So building organic matter is huge. Like obviously they have really cool soil building blends of organic matter. What's that one company? It'll come to me in a minute. But if you look up, I think it's Peaceful Valley soil building mix. There's a really good cover crop blend. It's full of all sorts of nitrogen fixers and legumes that are, really great at soil building. It's soil building blend, cover crop. So there's those types of things. There's a really fascinating, I haven't done looked at it in a few years. I kind of went hard on it. I feel like around COVID time, that pandemic totally just, threw everything for a weird quantum loop. But companion planting other herbs like yarrow or chamomile, these other companion planting plants are now being shown to release phenolic compounds in the soil that interact with the cannabis root exudates or plant roots, and they're supposed to stimulate secondary metabolite production. So I think there's like a huge world of possibilities associated with companion planting other herbs with cannabis that can stimulate secondary metabolite production, possibly through phenolic compounds. There might be other compounds. It's very, very, there's very little study on this. And, I mean, if you're trying to boost the plant's ability to produce the secondary metabolites, so cover crops, let me think, you're on it. Yeah. I mean, Dragonfly probably has some interesting perspective on this. I mean, like their blends have herbs in them. I've always felt that adding, ground up herbs like lavender and things like that into the soil have always been a fascinating interest of mine. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack.
Biodynamic.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there with how you approach that. I don't exactly know where to start it. They're specifically asking for increasing trichome production for bubble hash. Is that like the end goal of the question?
Yeah, just to maximizing your profiles and resin production specifically for washing. Exactly. I guess it doesn't have to be exactly washing. It could be any sort of processing, extraction processing
Yeah.
where you're not necessarily growing for bud structure or for
Yeah.
vegetative weight, but you're just growing for the best expression. I think your answer was amazing because you started it somewhere I didn't really think you would start it, which was very humble. You gave like so much credit to the genetics. It's like, look, if the gene synthases aren't present, it doesn't matter how many secondary metabolites you produce, they ain't going to be there. And
Yeah.
so starting with the right genetics is obviously going to make a huge, and it is
Yeah.
true. Like I'll tell you, my first crop ever, I started with the wrong genetics. My buddy gave me this Reuter Ellis. I was like, Reuter Ellis, that sounds amazing. This was my first grow ever. In fact, my roommate took a picture of this grow, it was with a fuck, this is awesome. This is aging me. It was with a Polaroid camera because he was terrified to go get the pictures
Valid.
developed because we were in the Bible Belt and we would have gone to prison, not jail, prison. And so we grew this Reuter Ellis from seed that a buddy of mine gave me, and he took a picture of it with the Polaroid. He wrote somewhere in rural Manitoba and he sent it off to High Times magazine, and it was the 1995 November issue, the last issue that Jerry Garcia was on the cover of High Times magazine, and that our plant, if you remember High Times, people used to mail in their little pictures of their grows, and it would be like one page of just like my grows. Can't remember. It wasn't called my grows, but it was called something. And that was a big fucking deal for us. Even though the weed was bunk, and I'm sure my roommate still smoked it because he was like that. He wasn't gonna not smoke that weed. I definitely did not smoke that weed. I don't think it had THC in it. It was like fucking it was just like it started flowering under like 24 hours of light. Like this shit was like not the best stuff to grow. So I really heard you, Russ, when you said the most important thing is to start with the right genetics, which is why I'm asking you now, Brian. Tell me about that skunk.
Oh, hey.
How's it
No,
going, best friends?
it's going well. Thanks for having. Nice hearing from Russ. Definitely agree, at least for step one, where you could be like the best at anything or have the best soil practices. And if you don't have the right genetic, then it's hard to or impossible to come in there,
Do you
you
and
know.
Russ know each other?
A little lightly, I believe, through Instagram.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Years. I recognize him and I love seeing everything that I see that he does and seems like one of those bright lights out there, you
That's what
know.
I felt like.
Yeah, that's what good energy too. But just now, hey Russ,
Hey, Brian.
nice hearing from you.
Thanks, man.
Um, yeah, so got this little cool genetic project with my friend here up in northern Maine that I've mentioned it on Hash Church a couple times, but it's a 1987 skunk number one. So it just kind of matched up with what Skunk Man was saying about the last year that the roadkill or the raunchy skunk went out. And didn't know that, but it was interesting how my friend that I've met a couple years ago and wasn't in the know, but that info came out, and it just happens to be a 1987 that he found in a Ziploc bag back in the day from a grow that got busted. And he's a really cool, like plant keeper person, I would put it. So I went backward. What I'd say is we went forward, we pushed forward to go backwards. So when it to like an old 87 skunk one and then a chem 91. And yeah, so we'll see what comes out of it. But I crossed up a gas mask and what I call a GX4, which is 1 part GMO and 3 parts gas mask male. And a great
He
Smucker
he
F1
sent he
male.
sent me the Ganjier journal. He said he's like, look at this. I scored the highest on the Ganjier journal. I got 100% for that 1987 skunk number one.
He gets excited. He's a really cool person.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool though. I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Keeping it
And that's
100? Holy shit.
amazing.
Yeah, he said, yeah, Brian's mentioned me on Hash Church a couple times, but I'm super low key.
Yeah,
So
he's older than me and he's up in the woods, but he's definitely a Kirk is a cool, really cool, caring person too. He has that like true love for the plant connection that you can feel in some people, and just popped up, random meeting in the community that we have here. But he's got a big heart, and I thought it was really cool to push this project forward to kind of turn it backwards at the same time again, and with this idea of like restoration. These two types are very classic. It's definitely the cut or clone from the true Chem 91. And I haven't dug in deep, but it's from what everything I've seen, and he showed me a little bit, but he's kind of, holds it pretty tight with the skunk one. And I think that we'll see I'd like to see some amazing stuff to come. We're just going to be testing out the F1s to see if it's worth kind of going back in to recreate with my next G line and carry generation of gas mass next year, and maybe create some more, population for people to actually get some of these to try if the first F1s work out to be something really cool.
Awesome. I'll tell you, I really think prohibition and the prohibition mentality of how much I can get and how fast I can get it was also altered by these funky, incredibly loud thiol and thiolate compounds like the N-butane thiol 1, which is found in the skunk. Actual skunks produce that in their anal glands. I think there's three particular thiols that they create to make that smell, but N-butane thiol 1 is definitely one of them. And I feel that, we used to always call Renee, which was definitely had strong thiols in it, pot to get you busted. Because it would just get you busted. You'd be at a hotel, you're kicked out. You'd be like riding your bike down the street, you're under arrest. It's like you can't put it in a car. And so prohibition really like you had to kind of like, oh, do I want to have the loudest shit? Like it's so loud. And now that we're not so worried about smell, I mean, the best thing ever that came from whatever you want to call legalization. I don't want to get into the political debate of, we need decrim, we don't need this, we don't need. Listen, all I care about is people having access, much like Skunkman Sam. I'm less concerned with who profits from it. But that access immediately took away the police's ability to search based on smell. Cannabis is legal. The police can't come to my door, knock on my door, and go, "Oh, we smell weed in your house. We're going to now have free entry." That's done. That's over and done with. So now we can start digging back into these thiol and thiolate based cultivars that are just so rank. And I can't even explain it. It's like I used to call them alcohol soluble terpenes. That's what I thought they were because when I washed my plants, they didn't stay in the water. The hash smelt as loud as the flower. And I was always confused by that because the first cultivars I ever washed, many of them, right up until the Shishka Berry yellow line from Breeder Steve, they all washed away into the water. And that's why water hash wasn't very popular in the beginning because you had this very few of these plants that produced these compounds that didn't wash away in the water. And so people said, oh, I don't like that process. Whereas really the process just needed to be specifically attuned to certain cultivars that were specific to washing. Because obviously, if you put a plant in water and and then, people will be like, oh, it's solventless because the water's not acting as a solvent. It's like, well, then why is the water brown or purple or whatever color it is if it's not acting as a solvent? Well, it's not acting as a solvent for the trichomes. I'm like, right, but it is the universal solvent that's always acting as a solvent. You can't really, pick and choose that. Although thank God it didn't steal the heads, it took me a while to figure out finding cultivars that go all the way through. Now, 25 years later, I mean, if you go to Masters of Rosin in Los Angeles or Legends of Hash, 9 out of 10 of the entries will have that loud sort of what I'm now probably incorrectly calling thiol based. Maybe I'll learn something in 5 years from now and realize, yeah, that's like the alcohol soluble terpene thing. Not really correct, but I knew something was going on because of how much water hash I had made. And what a disappointment it was to have a really nice, flavorful plant wash through and then the resin just not taste like that at all. So, the last 20 plus years has been people breeding cultivars that, do have those loud compounds in them that are not necessarily going to wash out. They're going to stay all the way into the final product, which, oh my goodness, I think I'm going to hit the last little dab of that right now. Look at that.
That looks good.
Oh my God, it's good, dude. Let me tell you.
Marcus, I'm seeing, or I don't know for us, other people out there doing some breeding. I've caught on to something happening where almost like the opposite effect of the hash turns up so loud, amplified and multiplied, off certain types, even from what the waft, and I almost catching on to it, where if you have a little less, burp of volatile right up front for the wow, and it kind of goes deep and settles into the smell, as you smell deep, and it's not just right in the face, almost like push you back, that it's there and it's deep. And I found those washers, at least I'm seeing some like the G band, which is my 207 headband on a gas mask with a GMO. So, like on a breeding perspective, I've seen GMO. What I call that plant is a really important plant to breed for these ranchers and other
100%.
plants. Yeah, other plants. I see it all around. Like kind of touched on it a few years ago, and I call it it's an amplifier. So it seems
Yeah.
to everything to go back to with it. Like it's got other presences or box, checker things, but it's basically an amplifier where anything you put on it for the right pheno expression outward, from the generations outward, that they just, some of them really grab on to what they already had, and then they just turn up the dial, almost, double up the smell.
Turn up the thiol, that GMO garlic, that oniony, garlicky goodness.
Yeah.
Have you
That one.
have you looked at sorry, have you looked at abstracts information on that? That's fascinating because
Oh yeah.
all their stuff is fascinating. It might be
Awesome.
just I don't know, but the thiols are the sulfur compounds, so they have this whole category of sulfur compounds, and I think maybe within that whole field there are other profiles that are connected.
You're definitely correct. How that started for us on Hash Church, and I don't know how we met Nick, but we met this brilliant man, Nick Ziegler. And Nick decided he was going to come on Hash Church. And Nick worked for Yakima Chief Hops, extracting like 4,000 kilos of hops every hour through this like $10 million Tor CO2 machine that he helped set up and run. He had an incredible analytics team who jerry-rigged some equipment together and created the ability to, monitor down to these thiols, which were well beyond down to the billionth, which NMR does, as Dr. Mark knows. And we wanted to do he came in and he started talking about thiols. He talked about the 1,400 plus thiols that he and his team discovered in hops at Yakima Chief Hops. And so I had never spoken to anyone like Nick who had exact knowledge of what all of these compounds actually smell like by themselves. Because all of us, we're just smelling profiles and then assuming, oh yeah, that's the so and so. It's like, well, that's the so and so mixed with everything else. But I bet you if you removed everything else and only smelt the so and so, it would be very different. So Nick was the first one to come in with that kind of knowledge. Not long after, maybe a year later, Dr. Mark was reaching out, our resident PhD chemist, and said, hey, listen, I know the guys over at Abstract. They're doing some really cool things. They had actually written an article kind of discovering long chain sulfur compounds in cannabis. And then Nick sort of was like, hey, I did some of this work a few years earlier. So there was a little bit of this, but what we did is we did a show all together. And dude, if you haven't watched that show, yeah, no, that's probably the best show we did this whole year. That was a banger. The Volatile Organic Compound show with Ian from Abstract. Nick is on that show. Jeremy Plum is on that show. Dr. Mark is on that show. Unfortunately, Marshall Lagur was unable to make it. He worked at, I believe Marshall's also a PhD. He worked at Yakima Chief Hops with Nick, and he is a sensory scientist. So I love listening to this guy talk, really, even just about the SOPs. By the way, I can put you in touch with any of these people if you need direct contact. He really, yeah, it was incredible to just have the whole conversation come to be. And I feel like we only tipped the iceberg. There was some amazing things shared. I think missing Marshall was a bummer because his perspective of sensory science and how you prepare to do the sensory science leading in just those SOPs to follow so that it's done correctly, to me was super interesting. I found it just like wild. But though that was probably our one of our best shows that we did this year. And so hopefully we'll keep traveling with that and taking it, to the next, maybe there's other groups that are going to start working on this and we'll compound and bring them into church for these conversations. I don't see that particular conversation happening in a lot of spaces. I find it to be a very advanced conversation. So if you just, see it come across your feed on an Instagram or something, it's going to be hard to understand. But if you have like a 3 to 4 hour podcast that you could watch on it, then it's a little bit easier for people to consume. But absolutely
It's
awesome.
fascinating. I'm totally fascinated with all that discovery. I've been trying to condense it. I haven't done it in a while, but I have some posts trying to like condense all, because we just call it terps. It's like the nome. It's like terps, but it's like actually there's this like whole huge class, multiple class system of secondary metabolites. So it's really cool. And
Terps is
just
just a
one side
cultural
point
word.
with Brian, I do notice that there's some strains that don't smell. They don't have a lot of volatiles in the flower. It's subdued, but then when it comes out in the hash, it's like amplified, and I don't know what that is. But it
Yeah,
is fascinating. I don't understand.
I think
I can't
that's,
explain to you the science.
it's
Well,
really
I think
interesting.
that,
go
When
ahead,
I,
please.
oh, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not. I
no,
said, go ahead, Brian. You're not
Oh,
interrupting. Dude, you're like the quietest guy in Hash Church. When you open your mouth, we'll let you talk.
sometimes. Sometimes. Thank you. Now, when I was actually helping with Hidden Forest get their dragonfly right, I went around the yard and Hunter's got these amazing types he showed me. I caught onto it first there, where he's gone pretty deep and he has a great collection. And he's like walking, showing me these types, that were amazing, look so healthy, look so good. And then, excited about the smell, I'd go in and that was actually a little bit subtle, where I do both more hash, leaning these days, but I love really, really profound flower types. Like the laugh now, cry later is close to, I think, a 5%, for a terp fraction when it was tested. So I like some of those like screaming loud ones but the learning curve with it of seeing like they make some of the most amazing hash, and it comes out so ripe on the other end, which is I'm starting to catch on to it myself when I'm selecting out in the yard or paying attention to the generations of the breeding, to where some of them where that you'd think grab you right up front for that popping smell, which they do, but then there's almost maybe like see how it washes out before thinking it's going to just be
Yeah.
in the trash.
I wonder if it's like, is it maybe a wax or lipid layer around the trichome head that's thicker, that's preventing the volatilization, perhaps? I don't know.
it's like the
Ah,
new hash varietals all act that way. Not all of them, but I find that in the new kind of drier trichome, I feel like it's more protected and it's at the hash moment when it like fully unveils itself with flavor because it's like 10 times stronger as hash, you
Interesting.
know,
Are you
with
talking about hash or live hash rosin?
I'm talking personally about cured hash.
Yeah, good. Because a lot of
But
people are
all,
calling
but
live hash.
also,
Go ahead, sorry.
oh well, I'm just saying it does happen with rosin as well, as far as the flavor expansion
Yeah.
is
Hmm.
was what I was.
Russ, one thing that you said that strikes me is, when I notice resin that's been grown with a lot of available sugars throughout the life cycle of the plant, there's a lot more wax on the membrane itself, and it seems to translate better through processing. So that's again back to living soil and why it's so unique. You have these opportunities to provide for the plant in ways that targeted feeding, sometimes can, but it's really difficult to keep that available.
Yeah.
I wanted to sort of, before we just come to the automatic conclusions of like first good genetic and then good breeding practices, I wanted to bring it full circle and to have a look at the possibility of it actually being a loop, because we all know that we've been given in the past maybe the best seeds and the best genetics that you've ever seen, and other people, and then maybe or that you've whatever, but then you take that to a system, to a soil, to whatever that really doesn't bring out the ultimate plant, not even a little bit. And I know for us, we could really see that huge difference in growing amazing genetics in amazing soil systems. And even throughout the years of our own genetics changing and getting better and better and better, because there's an interaction with the trichome production, with the secondary metabolite production, with all the different olfactory compounds that are going to happen. And I just don't want it to sound so black and white. You have to start with good genetics, because there's a lot of gardeners and people out there would say you have to start with a good soil, because what gave it the good genetic in the beginning. It's just it's so circular to me that I feel like something so definitive as that it's just up for discussion is all, because I really have seen amazing genetics be totally fucked with really bad soil or something that wasn't integrative. I've seen, and we've seen it with some of these amazing cups out there where everyone is given the same cut, and then you go out and see what happens, and not only are you looking at the extracts, you're also looking at the COAs. This is the same exact cut. And then the way that it's grown is so completely volatile
And relevant.
that it's really amazing. The difference is you could easily not even think that it was from the same cut by looking at the COAs or smelling it.
It's true. It's a
So
it's a
just wanted
spiral.
to
It's a
bring it around.
spiral
All you have to do is
that
Yeah.
kind
change a few
of
little
expands.
things. Yeah.
We have a cool genetic project with Russell that we've done in the Frenchies grapes line, which is a cool thing. And I feel like we energetically put energy into the trichome, into the crystal, and inadvertently that goes into the seed as well, because we know the seed's also storing soil microbes in it. So I always love the idea when we put our seeds out to the world, our soil microbes are then going into the soil. So there's a very large exchange there. So go ahead,
There's something
add
really
something.
cool about that. Then what Kelly and Josh are describing, the idea of endophytes that are stored in the seeds, right? There's like microbes from them, from their location, that are stored. It's in this genetic coding in this seed. And when that seed is planted, it has some of this like pre-coded, interaction with those microbes that can be facilitated, and it's a really cool process. The endophytes stored in seeds and their relationship to how they're sprouted, and the own soil microbial relationships that potentially over time change the epigenetic expression of plants is also nothing to be scoffed at. It's a very powerful process. And I think that's some of what they're describing. Yeah.
I think the endophytic fungi and bacteria discussion is probably the undiscovered area
Guaranteed.
in Canada still. We've definitely hit on it. There's like the Dr. James Wright, or what, fuck, I forget his name, but he's amazing, you know, about the rhizosphere, about the rhizophagy cycle, where the end of the root tips are really only bringing in beneficial microbes out of the soil, which is super cool to think about, that it's will not bring, pathogens into its realm, and that also those endophytes are also magnifiable as a medicinal compound. So in different plants, it's not just the genetics in the plant, it's the it's the endophytic bacteria or fungi that it can be then, propagated, which is the biggest example of that is the yew tree with Taxol. They used to take the Taxol or the bark, which we said on this show before, but you get Taxol from the bark of the tree and cure cancer. But then they realized they could get more of it from the endophytic fungi, I believe, that was within the yew tree.
Yeah.
So
A lot like raising a kid too, like we know that there's good minerals and things that you need to be feeding children in order to have good bones and teeth. And if you're just feeding them a lot of processed stuff, then they're not really going to have nice teeth. It's pretty easy. You can see it in one generation, and that isn't even like, that's not even genetics. That's just epigenetics. That's like what's going on in the environment, and how we realize that, what happens on an everyday with those genetics or with that child, is going to not only interject how their progression is in their own life, but also is going to define what's going to happen with their future genetics. So I really think it's just so easy to look at all nature things, including ourselves, and be able to understand how easy this is to look up. And when we talk about endophytes, it's the same thing as talking about our own microbiome. And that's even like our cellular microbiome. So
I just was going to add in regards to growing plants, different ways, or the same plant, right? Kelly was mentioning how people were given the same plant. Well, one of our customers did a little experiment from Grandmaster LEDs, and they grew the same plant, it was the same cut off the same mother. It was all the same nutrients. It was the same, everything on the indoor grow was the same except the frequency or the lights, the spectrum of lights. And so this is the exact same cut. It was substantially different in THC. The COA did not look the same because the plants were quite different. And that was just really removing one variable, which was the frequency or the spectrum of light that was used to grow. And those plants were in the same room. They were actually like just one table over. You know what I mean? Like, so you can change the plant in a very vast way. The other thing I wanted to say, because we're well done from that part of the conversation, was this fungi intelligence. And it always reminds me how I think it was a metaphor that Elon Musk used about the Neuralink when he first was like, "Oh, I'm going to create this Neuralink," and I was kind of like, "Oh my God, dude! Like, who the fuck is going to put that thing in their head?" Thinking like a total privileged person with my full factor everything working in my body. I didn't think that people who were, that couldn't move, that could put one of these in their head and then they could start moving a mouse on a. I wasn't thinking about that, but he had used this sort of metaphor that we have all this data and then we have this incredible brain, but then we have like a straw that we're sucking this information from. And so he's working on that straw. That straw is the Neuralink. And so I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great for us to be able to have a similar thing for the fungi intelligence? If we could understand the fungi intelligence, the vast learning that would happen, because it's just tip of the iceberg stuff. Even the people that know the most about this stuff are in kindergarten right now. When you really break down the complexities of this intelligence that is at play, sequestering compounds, doing all these incredible things. I mean, fungi is literally impossible. It just does impossible shit on the daily. It doesn't follow the regular rules. I think it was Paul Stamets who pointed out this particular mushroom that has bypassed evolution completely. It doesn't need to evolve. All it needs to do is grow near another mushroom that has the ability to do something that it doesn't, and it just takes it. It's just like, oh, I can do that now. I can liquefy calcium through my hyphae. I've never been able to do that, but thanks for showing me, bro. And it just takes it. And it's like, okay, that's kind of it goes against everything that we know in regards to
That's
how
better than a straw.
evolution
That's better than a
works.
straw.
Well,
Yeah.
you've got to take the fungi. You got to absorb the knowledge. So you take the mushrooms, and then you get the knowledge. The lion's mane is the neural reconstruction. The psilocybe, chaga, the reishi, the shiitake, the cordyceps. You got to take the fungi.
You do. Wasn't Terence McKenna the one that was talking about the theory of evolution that once humans started taking mushrooms, that there
Dude,
was the
I
whole
actually love that theory. That's a
right?
great theory. That
And the
yeah, the ingestion when they spread out onto the plains, there was animal dung, and the mushrooms grew out, and they took it. It's a great theory of the mind, of the evolution. I love that theory. It's very plausible.
We're in
Absolutely.
Prague right now, which is really special. And it's the land of alchemists and mystics. And what that really means is like when we're learning. So trust me, I'm just here trying to figure it all out. But the kingdom of Bohemia was super magical at the time, because people that were getting burned at the stake and herbalists and medicine makers and stuff were getting burned in different parts of Europe, getting hung, getting killed, but they could find refuge here in the Kingdom of Bohemia, and Prague was the center of that. And so alchemy and mysticism and really expanded here, and we always hear about
Crystal
the
ball reading, tarot, palmistry,
John Dee and Edward Kelly, learn about that, but we were just like, why
frequency
are they in
neurology
jail?
of our whole psyche. Anyway,
And then
cool.
we were just learning, there was the woman who, the person who invented the double boiler and alchemy, and the first alchemist was a woman. And it is nice to think about like women upholding that space of creation and healing for so many years. And then it gets intellectualized, and then it gets turned into Latin. And all of a sudden, women are not even allowed to read at this point in time. So you can't advance as a woman to be a teacher and a historical figure. So we're kind of diving into that, as well. But it also, it's just a nice reflection in our modern times to realize how we're alchemists of our time, not to say that we're like John Dee and Edward Kelly and we have every historical book in the world out of the libraries of every kingdom and palace in Europe. That would be cool, but we don't have that. What we have is cosmic intelligence that we've learned through psychedelics and our own personal interaction with life, and our interaction with friends and family and watching things work and not work. That's the most powerful thing we have, and it inspires and guides us in a way that's immeasurable. So here we are learning about cannabis, watching this country come alive, and realizing the roots of the Czech people really, that alchemist root and that whole natural way of living really is kept alive here in the Czech Republic, and you feel it. It's different
That's
than other
Czech, yeah.
parts. Yeah, in Česko.
And I wanted to just like think back on what we were just talking about as far as fungi and the relationship and eating the fungi. I mean, really, if we just look at the human cell, it contains mitochondria. Mitochondria, we know now, is a living being. They say, oh, we got it from the air. It originated from the air. And then somehow it just came through, and all of a sudden it's in the cell, and it went from some living form to some non-living form. It exudates, it multiplies. The intelligence of your mitochondria in every single cell is definitely defining your ultimate outcome as far as your health, your wellness, your intelligence, and most of all, your ability to adapt. A sign of intelligence is not just like what you've learned in being able to reproduce it or being able to regurgitate it, but it's also how are you able to adapt even in a singular conversation? When you walk away from a singular conversation, how fast can your mitochondria multiply to be able to access that adaptability? And I just think that just looking at a cell, if they say that we become, once the cell separates and we're a zygote, that's the beginning of life. Well, that's two cells separating and then creating more mitochondria. It's just something that's just way interesting to me. And that also is its own microbiome, its own biome, its own endophytic system is the single cell. And we just don't even have nearly the scientific evidence or knowledge, at least in this dimension or this simulation right now. But we definitely have that innate knowledge within ourselves. Give us a tiny little drop of something, and again, we can adapt to that conversation immediately, because most of the time when it's coming from a message of truth, it's not just, oh, I believe in that. It's not just, oh, I resonate with that. It's, I remember that. Thank you for the reminder. And then we can all rise as a species. And I just think that that goes all the way down to the mitochondria.
I just really quickly put up a couple of links. I put up a couple of links on the chat. One from Terence McKenna in Prague, I think in 1992. It's like 2 hours and some long. I think it's called The Prognosis. And it's the whole entire, it's a collection of some of the greatest thinkers and minds in the world. And it's these super long, really cool conversations based in that what we talked about the Kingdom of Bohemia and alchemy, and also mind expansion, and then also I put up Mushroom, who we know as Mushroom, but his name's Alan Capular, and it's Man of Ideas, and it really shows the magic between our human bodies and the plant kingdom, and how it's very much so the same organisms, and how, everything down from natural childbirth to um,
Seed germination,
to see,
breeding,
yeah, and
everything.
how, like, the organisms found in the pond are found in the lens of our eye, and it's just that whole connection that we really truly are of
Yeah,
nature, and
yeah,
that's the beauty of it.
yes. It's like as above, so below. The alchemist axiom. If anyone's interested in alchemy, they should look at a guy named Paracelsus. He was like the original OG. I think he came a generation before Edward Kelly, but Kelly studied him. But Paracelsus, Paracelsus, Paracelsus is like a really cool alchemist, like a physician at heart, healing through intuition and plants. And there's just like this. What Josh and Kelly are describing is exactly what we all need to hear, which is like we can reference science, but at the core of it, it's so complex that trying to understand it all is impossible. And there's some level of cosmic intuition, a cosmic consciousness that if we allow it to come into us, it instills an intuition inside of us that we know, that we recognize, that we maybe seen before, felt before, understand as a higher truth. And there's something so underrated about that, but it's really powerful for us to like at least acknowledge and
Yeah.
follow, I think. Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
alchemy
think
is a
our
big one.
job is, yeah, I
Go
think
ahead,
our
Kelly.
job even as educators is not to teach, but to remind. I
I like
truly
that.
believe that because I think when we remind people, then that's what sparks their memory then to create a whole lineage of whatever they want to educate
Mm,
themselves on within that. And I think that we all know what it's like to have somebody drop something on, it expands within an instant. And I just believe that that's like the moments are the reminders. And
right.
I
It
think
reminds
that
me
the
of an old,
people in my
yeah.
life who've expanded that are those reminders. Yeah.
It reminds me of an old Taoist from the Tao Te Ching. There's a passage in the Tao Te Ching, and it's like the master doesn't lead, he doesn't like control. He just gets the people to do it themselves. And at the end of the day, they're like, "Wow, we did it ourselves, amazing!" And then the master just sits back and smiles, and like
It's
it's
kind of
all.
like where you can only really heal yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like you are your greatest healer,
Yeah.
even though there's doctors and there's herbalists and midwives and witches and all these things that, are there to assist you. But they also can't teach you things because the greatest teacher is
Yeah.
yourself.
And you might have an
So then
interesting,
nothing, no one can make you do anything. You
right.
make you do stuff.
And going back to what Wade said, we're all so unique and individual. We might have something in us that is uniquely amazing that only we can express. And so, like, it's a really powerful thing to recognize your own power and to assimilate knowledge, but then allow the expression of your own self and power and knowledge to,
Well,
come out.
that's why the biggest attack is on authenticity. And
Yeah.
the scariest thing for people to do is be authentic, right? They're just scared. Everyone wants to fit in. They want to be cool. They want to set trends. They want to do all of these things, but being authentic is the highest value that you can bring to this world because you're the only version of you that has ever been or ever will be. You might as well be the best, like double down on that. Don't be like, oh, I don't feel comfortable. I'm going to be someone else. So many of us go through that in our younger years. It's interesting that we would bring up alchemy because back in the day when the Bubble Man um, poster artwork was first created. My friend Sean created it. This was 110 hours. It took him to do this. This was my original ad. This is me basically, Bubble Man, sitting on trichomes. And if you zoom in on these, you'll see there's no straight lines. It's all dots. It's pointillism, right? It took him 110 hours of just doing dots. But if you look at a little closer up, you'll notice that Bubble Man's hood and sleeves and belt buckle are covered in alchemical symbols. This was done in 1999. So
Nice.
the belt buckle, which most people thought was a smiley face, it's actually the alchemical symbol for water hash filtration. So you've got the THC molecule that looks like a nose and eyes. You've got filtration, which it looks like a happy face. That's the alchemical symbol for filtration. A lot of people didn't catch that, but the odd person would reach out to me and be like, dude, that's so fucking cool that you have those alchemical symbols on the Bubble Man. And so shout out to Shawn Michaels, my dear friend, who created that as a gift for my birthday in 1999. And it's, I mean, you can't imagine spending 110 hours drawing something, the focus of that. And that goes to show that Shawn was doubling down on his authenticity. That's why that picture looks so incredible. It's so surreal. It's just like it doesn't exist outside of the reality that Shawn, brought it into. And so shout out to him and shout out to Alchemy and shout out to making hash because it is a
Shout
beautiful
out
thing.
to Mary the Jewess, which I just put on the chat as well, who is the first recorded alchemist from the Alexandria. So the third century is like quite a bit farther away than the 14th
Yeah,
century.
she invented sublimation.
Yeah,
So
and the double boiler.
sort of
So
has
she
something to do with that.
invented the double boiler in the 200s.
Well,
Or
remember
No,
that's
her
that's
grandmother's
it shows you there's this infinite loop happening here.
absolutely.
We just
And remember,
continue. I'm not
history is often told by the people who won and is often a distant
every time.
relative of
Very true.
yeah, so it's who knows that man, alchemy could be around for 20,000 years. Our
And the
history is so
alchemists
limited.
we're doing transmutation of regular metals into gold. I mean, that's
valuable metals.
yeah. I mean, but on top of it, there was like the whole like to look into a crystal ball and summon spirits was called to be as to scray. And then you look into the crystal ball and you learn all this stuff. And
They call it remote viewing today.
what if the trichome's the crystal ball?
Oh, that's a good rabbit hole. I like
Probably
that.
is. It probably
No
is.
wonder we're so attracted to it.
I want to drop another thought is that
Look
I
into my
really
crystal ball.
believe exactly.
What do you
Yes,
see?
got it. I also think that I'm believing now that like Prague and Paris and a lot of these really big, interesting cities, it's really difficult to look at time and space as linear, but I do believe it's a much older civilization or simulation than even the pyramids, even anything going on down in South America. So I'm just wanted to flip that script a little bit as just an idea, just as a thought, because
Calm down.
you could look down like 18 blocks of the most unbelievable, hugest stones that you've ever seen, and they're all not 1 millimeter out of line. And I mean, I could go on and on and on. And then the canals, oh, they just stopped the ocean to put in these perfectly linear, unbelievably cut stones that are weighed millions or thousands of pounds. And I just it would just be fun to put that out into the human minds about these cities that we walk around in actually being much, much, much older than what we believe.
It's out of time.
Yeah.
Out of time, out of mind.
Not out of mind.
No, in mind, out of time.
In memory.
Anyway, it is
It's like Terence
spectacular.
McKenna. Terence McKenna has some theories, like the epics. He's like the epics of time are repeating. He does that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like this. The time is like radial, and it just like it folds in on itself and then just is reborn, and it just is like constant folding in and rebirth. And it's
So
just,
you're doing a torus there. You're doing a toroidal
yeah,
field there, which is
yeah.
awesome.
They said the
Probably is.
that the Eiffel Tower was originally going to be a Tesla type tower,
Oh, trippy. That'd be
and
wild.
then they
I've heard
killed
that.
Tesla, broke the tower down, and then they just be like, "Oh, let's just build it for the World's Fair," because the World's Fair is a trip thing
It
in
looks
itself.
like his Wardenclyffe Tower. It's the similar structure of the design. That's interesting.
And there's a similar one here in Prague at the Petrin Hill, which
we're going to go to now.
mimicked, the Eiffel Tower. Also, Marcus, we're gonna go see Khalidad, the brother that we met up when we saw in ICVC when we were in Berlin together, who's from this area. So also, big love to Hannes and everyone here that we're going to be seeing, and Ria and all the people that are coming,
And we're here for CanaFest. So
Grove Bags and Lance.
And thank you so much, CanaFest. You know, they continue to put on this event even when it wasn't popular. We talk a lot about not popular things that we bring forward. And if you continue at it, then it can be something that people can sort of jump onto to become normalized. Well, these guys are still putting on this amazing CanaFest. They've been doing it for a lot of years. And now here we are in legalization. I'll do it like Marcus was doing. But it is allocating people to be able to grow their own. And that's what we really love more than anything, is to have and grow your own medicine. So people are able to do that in Czech. So we're going to go out and we're just going to give a lot of hugs and get hugs. And it's going to feel good to be in Prague and be out here representing the plant and being a forever student of it as well.
Yeah, and I just like to give my heartfelt, genuine appreciation for you all on this panel and everyone that's been on this panel and everyone listening as well, because it's just more than cannabis. It's super meaningful. It's deep. It's thoughtful. It's a different perspectives. It's very magical, and I do hold it close to my heart. Feel super connected, to all you, and we have had a lot of good times. I super look forward to more. I feel blessed to grow your genetics and have you grow ours, and that whole storyline. I mean, we grew probably 20 varieties of the Frenchies grapes that we got from you this year, Cha. We had
All fire.
Russell. We had a whole entire greenhouse that we grew of your genetics, and the grape gags, the limoncellos, the golden lemon juice.
And we turn ash
the
to fermented.
The Z3, the honey bananas, the papaya honey bananas, it was fun, and the
Fun.
Canal Street, the Canal Street runs was kind of
bananas.
silly, and
Yeah.
the peach rings and the peach perfection.
Killer.
That's just off the top, in my head.
The
Yeah,
Canal
there was a-
Street run. Winner, chicken dinner.
Canal
Winner,
comes through.
okay, good. Yeah.
Put the
Yeah.
Canal with the GMO,
Winner.
Brian, and I super want to grow the gas mask skunk, and I'm thinking about we'll do some of Skunk Man Sam with that, but also we got genetics from Ryan as well, from Chimera that were from Skunk Man Sam, so it seems appropriate for us to put that into that as well. So
We want to thank you all. Just wanted to get off too and have a wonderful evening, and thank you all.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy Prague. Have a nice evening.
Thank you so much.
you guys are good people.
Peace, guys.
That's what's
Love
up.
everybody who's listening, and I'm so glad to see Russell on here. Yeah, thanks so much for all the work that you've been doing and continue to do,
Pollinate.
and everybody else. Everybody,
Big love.
love you guys.
Yeah, what's kept you going, Russ, is it just you just have this incredible passion for cannabis? Is that what you've got the disease like the rest of us?
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a multi-fold, synthesis of for some reason this plant is incredibly unique and special. It sort of flies. I don't like the government. It's just pretty obvious. I don't like their power structure and control. I don't like the pharmaceutical industrial matrix. I was pretty damaged by it growing up. It did nothing for me, really. And you have this plant essentially that is this like this cornerstone, or the head of that it represents, to me, it represents freedom, it represents sovereignty, it represents connection to the community, it represents medicine, it's like the denizen, it's like the high delegate of all medicinal plants. It represents a whole world of knowledge of medicinal herbs that are put in place to optimize our health. And we don't necessarily need what's coming out of the pharmaceutical matrix to be healthy. And this plant to me is like sovereignty over self and community, and like sovereignty over this like industrial matrix. And that's what it sort of represents to me. And I hold that to be a very highly important position in my thinking. So that's kind of what it means to me.
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of that in common with you. I wouldn't say that the pharmaceutical industry fucked me up a lot growing up,
Yeah, it's all
but
different. Like it's good. It helped my father stay alive the last 20 years of his life. My
yeah,
dad was born.
no,
Yeah.
I didn't like it for most of my life. As I got older, for instance, both Wade and Sam, were at the end of their life. They were having to take these drugs to stay alive. And so I thought,
Yes.
you know what, I could see a different perspective of it. But
Yeah.
I had a much more fearful and just like negative perspective. I also was very similar. I mean, my family worked for the police, and I was kind of like the black sheep, like
Yeah.
smoking weed and learning to grow weed, and like right in the house where they were like,
Crazy.
doing
That's
police shit.
hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, it happens all the time actually. Like it's if you want to find the most corrupted youth, just go knock on the chief of police's door, and
Right. Or the pastor's
or
child.
the pastor. Yeah, that son or daughter is getting into it. It's wild, it's incredible. It's probably why I can't say none of my kids, because my daughter does use cannabis a little bit, works in a dispensary, mostly drinks the drinks.
Mm.
But my oldest son has not, and my youngest son definitely has not. He's only 11. So, sometimes what you're into becomes the opposite thing of what your
Yeah,
kids
that's
are
right. No,
into.
my kids are 11 and 13, and they've been around it, me growing their whole lives, and they just like don't have any interest. They're like, yeah, like stupid plant, whatever. Like they don't have any interest in it. And I keep it like, I don't smoke in front of them. I don't make it like a obvious thing that I'm consuming it. I keep
Yeah.
that like removed,
Hmm.
but they just don't seem to like be interested in it. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
pharmaceutical industry is important in many ways, but I think it's like it gets an A in external medicine surgeries. My son took 6 stitches in his right eyeball when he was 2 years old. It was incredibly powerful at healing. It like making that work. But when it comes to internal medicine and like longevity of just like diet, nutrition, and all that, it just failed. It has horrible track
Well,
record.
once it becomes the pharmaceutical industrial complex, that I'm terrified of, and no one wants to get trapped in that.
Yeah.
That's like going to the hospital. But at the same time, like Kung Fu Vapes, who was in the room earlier, he took a little trip recently and went to like Paraguay or Uruguay. And while he was there, he ended up in the hospital. They did some tests. He found out he had cancer, like super quick, like everything's just like boom, 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 boom. And he just sent me a text today that they just basically saved his life with surgery. He had a hole in
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
back
So
like
it's
that
amazing.
big.
Right. Yeah. It's like we don't want to discount. It's like that's the
No.
thing with life. It's always a balance between the two worlds, but it's never one world or the other.
Yeah. Well,
That's the
when you have profit like that, you just the level of corruption that is possible is so scary that, that corruption takes the path
yeah.
and it
Sure.
shifts it. And now it's not going, and you've got great people who are on that
Yeah.
path but they're not the ones building the path or running the path. They're just working the path. And so
Yeah.
it does become a little bit scary in that sense. I believe for the most part they're out there to do good. I saw it during the whole COVID thing, how crazy it could be if you thought one thing versus another. Like
Oh yeah.
people were really looking down on one another
I know. It was
from
sad.
both sides
It was
equally.
sad.
Like they were exactly doing the same thing. It was very sad because I myself was trying to sit on the fence
Yeah.
and not be like the grass is greener over there or over there. I was like, look, how about this? I'll fight for your right so you can get the vaccine. And how about this? I will fight for your right that you don't have to take it. So let's just go with both of those. And most
Yeah.
people were like, no, you can't think that way. And I'm like, well,
Right.
that's how I'm thinking. I'm
That
sorry to
I love
say.
it. You get in the middle and you get attacked by both sides.
I
You try to
did.
support both sides and then they both attack
Dude,
you.
100%, which is what made me realize, okay, this is just a psyop. It's all good. We're just having, when you steal focus for so long from people, which they've been doing now for a solid 10 years, like really stealing our focus, right? And not just us, our kids and
Yeah.
elderly people, everyone's focus is being stolen. Once you have that focus concentrated in an area, then you can manipulate it. And it's frightening how easy you can manipulate it. And
Well, hopefully cannabis is the plant. That's another thing. It's like a jailbreaker. To me, cannabis is like a jailbreaker of the mind, you know.
mm,
I mean, psychedelics obviously help with that, but no, I'm okay. Thanks, sweetie. Yeah, it's just, that's another important part. It just, it opens up the mind. It
yeah,
helps you expand, be like, yeah, there's some funny movie clips, scenes where they're like, what the, they smoke weed and then they just like have these revelations
yeah.
of
I
conscious.
think of the Bill Hicks one where he's like, you're in traffic, someone's like beep 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 beep. I think marijuana should be mandatory. And then he's like knocking on the guy's window. He's like, hey, have a hit of this, man.
Yeah,
It's
Hicks
just,
is great. I love Bill Hicks.
dude,
He's the
I
best.
absolutely loved Bill Hicks. He was outside of the box.
Can I ask you a question? I don't know, Colin. What is your Vessel Life Sciences, Colin?
Oh, you guys should definitely know each other.
Yeah,
Colin's
so
brilliant. I've known
Westlife
Colin for
Science.
25 years, maybe close to 30. Go ahead, Colin. Sorry.
Yeah. So great question, man. So yeah, it's nice to meet you, first of all. So I've been making hash since I started growing in late 96, started making hash in 98-ish,
Nice, nice.
and I think around 99, that's where I met Marcus on the forums. And we just started all exchanging information, and like a lot of us here, we're all just got bit by this infatuation with the plant and how to, utilize every bit of it and every which way. And I've led a life of almost 28 years at this point, I guess. 24 of it's making hash, I guess. And
That's wild. That's a
it
stretch,
feels,
bro. That's a
yeah, it
serious
just feels
stretch.
like it's just been my life, my life. And you know what I mean? And I feel, like a lot of us, I feel lucky to have, for me, it was just such a trip to meet Marcus in person because like we had talked so much online, and it was just like we had almost already knew each other, right? But didn't because we used these handles, at the time because it was just so dangerous, and talking through emails and using Hushmail and all this stuff that,
Hushmail.
dude, like all this stuff that allowed us to like trade clones, right? Like if you wanted something from someone, it was an exchange, it wasn't really monetary. It was like, what do you have? What's in your stable? And it was really, that's what I loved about it because it was so DIY at the time. It was just so like, yo, what do you got? Let's exchange. How are you doing it? I remember talking to Dankmaster about super soils and then Subcool about it as well. Just mixing different soils at the time because we were, and I grew up around sort of an ag background, so I knew enough about cut flowers and things like that, but at the time, to maximize what we were doing, it was just a conversation with one another as, being infatuated with it as at a young age, kind of. So,
Did you start
that's
with his bubble bags? Is that where you started with
so
Marcus's bubble
no,
bag?
it's funny. My friend Scott, I won't say his last name, but Scott, which I think Marcus actually knows him. He bought Mila's bags, and him and I were making it together at his house. And then Scott, I found Marcus online, and I told Scott, and Scott ordered the bag set, and we started using that bag set, and I just kept on using bubble bags then therefore
Oh, cool.
after that point. So, like I've saved, I don't know, every other kit since I've bought one, since then. So I have like these like I have like, totes full of these old bag sets because it's
That's cool.
meaningful, I think. It's you go through these stages. It's like cables or something in the studio. You got to keep like a few to remind yourself, like,
Yeah,
I
the
used to do
history.
those all the time.
Dude, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
back in those days, Colin, like when you were saying, oh, you had to use the hush mail, and we were all like,
Yeah.
secretive, but communicating, it was crazier for me. No one was being secret with me. They were sending me their home
True.
address, often of their grow, like in 99. And I knew it early on. And I was like, fuck, this is like a heavy responsibility. Like everyone is reaching out to me. And this was really a new thing, right? Like 99, the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam was still popping off. Like it was still pretty big. But at that point in time, Amsterdam couldn't contain the community anymore. And Cannabis World and Overgrow and Cannabis Culture and cannabis.com, those sites were exploding with people sharing information about smoking weed, getting weed, what price do you pay for weed, pictures of weed. Keep in mind, 99 too was the birth of the digital camera, where I think you could, the highest level you could get in 99 was a 2.2 megapixel Sony Cybershot, which was about a $2,500 camera. Not cheap at all. It wasn't like everyone just had a phone to take pictures of. So it was definitely a unique and different time. And I felt it very early on that my first customer, High Grade from overgrow.com, he got busted and went to
I
jail. And I
remember high
and,
grade.
and I sent
Yeah.
that guy like magazines and like money for commissary, like just tried to like, support him while he was in jail. And yeah, he was the bucket guy. He did the buckets, but
Yep.
he was probably one of the most well-known people on Overgrow at the time. High Grade
It's
was
true.
like he was
He
like
was he
huge.
posted a lot, Marcus, you're right. And he shared a lot of information. There was so much information, Russ, that was on there. I don't know if you were on there at all, that really defined and set the tone for how we commercialized and thought about, you know, just doing what we do today, and it's where the stewards of a lot of these, really coveted cultivars really came from, you
Yeah,
know.
it's fascinating. I think during that time, like 98, I was in college in Virginia,
Oh,
and
geez.
and I wasn't
Enough said.
yeah, I wasn't I wasn't online on those grow forums at all. We had my link was Cannabis Culture magazine. I was like infatuated with cannabis culture. We would order seeds off Mark Emery seeds,
Yeah.
and that was our line in. That was
Yeah.
the line, and we get so excited. We're freaking out when, oh my God, are they gonna get here? Are they going to get busted? Whatever. That was the
So
line
I
in.
read I wrote a lot of articles for that magazine.
Oh, nice.
Yep,
We got in. We got into one of those editions with the photos.
that's awesome.
Little hydroton grow, the red grow pebbles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
like a little 1 liter, 2 liter, and yeah, we got it. We're like so excited. I think I still have. I kept that magazine
Well, that
edition.
so
Awesome.
Russ, like imagine like the influence that had on the digital world, and that's where like Heaven's Stairway started, and the birth of like what Gypsy Nirvana was doing, right, Marcus? Like with his seed
Yep.
company, and
Yep.
it really lit off this
Oh,
kind of
dude,
next
listen.
era
Mark
of what
Mark
Sam
was
did,
Mark
right,
was
if you
selling
will.
so many seeds and making so much money and
Yeah.
funding the entire
Yeah.
Vancouver scene of activism and
Yeah,
global,
yeah.
funding it all and keeping nothing for himself. I'll tell you, because I knew the guy very well since like 92 or whatever. And he
Yeah,
never
it's
kept
pretty
shit.
wild.
He never kept anything for himself, dude. No, wild. Nobody else in the entire industry ever did that, dude.
I
They
got to
could.
take a bong hit with him once. I actually was on the East. It's when I moved into Humboldt. It was like 2006. And I drove up there, went into the store because I was like, I had a hemp clothing company at the time. I was looking for maybe advertising in his magazine. So he invited me downstairs and he took a bong. I took this, like, he gave me this massive bong hit. I got so high out of my mind trying to
Classic.
navigate Vancouver. Yeah, it was wild. It was cool.
Big glass bong, beaker bong.
Funny experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like I said, no one else was doing what he did. A lot of people were selling seeds and bully for them, and they were doing a great job and they were making money, and that's awesome. And Mark just gave it all away. It was insane. It was, but he would refuse to virtue signal for likes. So people just like hated him. They just like there's so many things that people dislike about Mark. I always defended him because I just never saw any of that stuff. I always just saw him be like a superhero to the movement. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I don't care if you don't like him. I can't ignore the fact that he basically funded. I'll tell you one thing. Also, then he just like went to prison in the US for 5 years, not knowing that it was going to be 5 years. And right before he went down there, they released this kingpin law, which was like if you get caught with 1 million pounds of cannabis, it was for kingpins, like cocaine kingpins, fentanyl kingpins, but there was a cannabis clause that said if you get caught with 1 million pounds, you could be sentenced to death under the kingpin law. And in Mark's thing, they said his seeds had grown over 1 million pounds of cannabis. And so I would sit and talk with him and be like, dude, like, what are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna just like run away to like northern Yukon or something? And he's like, no, I gotta go down there and face the music. And I was just like, I just couldn't wrap my head around that courage because I'll tell you, from a Canadian perspective, when the DEA in balaclavas came into Canada, a sovereign country, and took Mark and Michelle and Marijuana Man, dude, that threw us all for a loop.
Yeah,
Obviously,
I remember.
none of us were Mark, right? But we all in our own minds thought, "Oh my God, what if I'm next?" It's like, bro, first of all, he was on the top 10 most wanted world list with like hitmen and like the leaders of the biggest gangs in the world. Mark was in there, which is absolutely bonkers.
It's wild. I don't think people realize how many seeds he sold. It's wild.
No, listen, I know. Everyone that was around knows because everyone that was around worked for him. My friend Natasha used to go pick up money out of his PO box, and it was nothing to pull 50K out in a day.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah, like no
wild.
problem. The PO box would be stuffed with like money orders,
Envelope. Yeah.
but they wouldn't fit. So then she'd get like a stack of these other papers that you give, and then they give you all the other envelopes. It's
Oh,
just like,
right.
holy shit,
Yeah,
dude.
that's wild. What a
But he
wild.
was
Yeah,
giving it
Mark.
away that fast. Like literally, I'd be sitting
Yeah.
there and someone would call and be like, I got busted with your seeds in Virginia. And he'd be like, he'd give the phone to someone and be like, can you get this guy's information and send him 10,000 US dollars for his court case?
That's so wild.
It
Yeah,
was wild,
that's a
dude.
good example. I'm glad you have this perspective because there's been some like I haven't followed it in a long time, but there was some controversy. I don't even remember.
Oh my God, dude. Mark's
You
all
know,
controversy.
yeah, but
It's
I would
like,
just like I would like champion people. Mark's a great example of someone who's a human. He might have some flaws, but people
yeah.
are discounting like the larger good that the person is doing. They're like nitpicking on certain smaller aspects of a human's, being, you know, yeah, behaviors, but there's like such a larger perspective of what someone like that has, how he's like fundamentally changed the culture and like what, like it's fundamentally, it was like you said, the amount of activism and like presence,
All of it, dude.
awareness, just us little dudes in Virginia, like, yeah, Mark and me seeds, we're so stoked. Like, how many times did that occur everywhere? It's
Dude,
wild.
listen, Vancouver became the most craziest place ever because all of you amazing lovers of cannabis, people that were getting into it, people that were like, what's this all about? Like, there's a
Right.
place in Canada that you could just go smoke cannabis in the streets, and there's this crazy guy there that will just literally give you cannabis seeds and then you give him money. I am here for it. So I was always around, just sitting around puffing with you guys. As you came into town, I'd be like, oh, there's a table over there. I'm just going to go sit down and pull out
Trippy.
some nice herb and get them all blazed up. And it was just this beautiful, continual flow of amazing cannabis people. He truly created like a little Amsterdam in Vancouver. And let me tell you, as much as I love Amsterdam, Vancouver is 1,000 times more enjoyable to walk around, enjoy nature, go for a paddleboard on the ocean, snowboard down a mountain. Like whatever
Right.
it is you want to do, it's here to do. It's West Coast, British Columbia, beautiful. Um, yeah, it
That's
was
right,
quite a
man.
time when he went
That's
away for 5 years because I didn't finish that story. He went down there. I was like, dude, you should honestly just run for your life. Like that's insane. Don't go down there and let them put you to death for selling cannabis. That's insane. So he went down there mainly to save Marijuana Man and Michelle, and he ended up getting 5 years. And for the 5 years that he was gone, nobody filled his shoes here. Jody sure held it together, I will say that, in a huge way. Cannabis culture, all the businesses, everything, but there was no more seed sales. There was no more the funding of this monstrosity that was just also, kind of surreal because the money was one way. It was never like, hey, you owe me money. Like it was just this one way flow of money that seemed to never stop. And they did, it's what caught the DEA's attention. They did not like that level of really what he was doing was he was lobbying. They
yeah.
call it activism, but in reality, he was lobbying, right? In a big
Yeah.
way. And it's funny because I look at protests now, and I got to be honest, I'm scared of protests. I wouldn't want to go to a protest. You get a rock in the
Different
face
thing
or
now.
something. People are super
Yeah.
polarized and angry with one another. When we protested for cannabis legalization, it was a beautiful thing. I always saw the cops smiling. Everyone was just puffing, not really allowed, but we're protesting and no, the cops won't come and get us, so we're protected. And it was just this positive experience that I don't see as much today
Mm.
in the protests.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll break for a second. You guys continue. I'll be back.
Sounds good, man.
Well, a parallel thing happened after they went after him. That's when they went after Ed Rosenthal.
I
And
remember
I
that.
was, and they did the same thing. They went after kingpin charges on him. They wanted to put him away for life. And for that first trial, I was not found. But for that second trial, I was served by the DEA at my dispensary. And it would have to go through the grand jury as well as then we were put on trial by Judge Breyer, the twin of the actual judge on this former judge on the Supreme Court. And let me tell you, brothers and sisters, there's nothing like having to sit in a federal court and have to, refuse to testify because they were going to put Ed in jail for life. So, and they had used Mark's, kind of bad situation as kind of a precursor to exactly what you said, Bubble Man, shut down what happened. Why? Because we were putting out back in the day, we were putting out, 5,000 clones a week in the Bay Area, to Dennis's club, to, all the different clubs. And they didn't like that we were flooding California with solid genetics that people could come back on. That wasn't the money thing. This was all medical. It's a different dichotomy, but there's similar situations where the government came in and tried to shut it down. But what we found out of Ed's case is that he was only sentenced to 1 day in jail. They fortunately didn't sentence any of us. I was the first of the recalcitrant seven. They did hold us in contempt of court because we refused to testify against Ed. But Judge Breyer said that he realized that it is not lost on him that Ed spent only a day in jail and realized, people, this is a Friday when this kind of all went down. And if we would have been put in jail, we would have been in jail for the weekend and it would have come out on Monday. And the judge said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. If you're not going to testify, you can go home. But if you're going to testify, then you're going to spend the weekend in jail. And of course, all of us refused to testify. So, you never know when you're called upon and when you have to, back up your activism. But, Marcus, there's still rallies, there's still people doing activism, there's still the Ann Arbor Hash Pash, there's still love. But yeah, don't think it was all love and peace and buttercups. I mean, I had New York professors in New York City flip my tables at New York University because they didn't like us being there in 1994 educating people about their rights. So it wasn't even the students, it was the actual faculty who ran us out. to the point even University of Delaware refused to host us, and we had to actually, the organizers snuck us into a classroom to do activism back in the day because, again, you know, the dominant paradigm did not like that we were doing cannabis in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, things have changed. There's legalization in certain states, and of course, you've had it there in Canada. So the original, repercussions have changed from what we tried to do. But John Pilka is still throwing the smoke-ins at the White House. I was speaking back at the 90s, where they start off in Lafayette Square and then march to the Lincoln Memorial and have rock and roll and educate people. And back in the day, the cops used to hang on the edge and try to catch people smoking on the edges of those rallies and drag them away. And we would have to go surround the cops and, silently or, chant loudly to, get them to, release the person. Or in some cases in Pensacola, Florida, we went down, surrounded the actual police station, smoked out around the police station until they released somebody. So, those days of that direct activism isn't as needed as it used to be, but there's still love and appreciation for those events. You also still do the 420 event in Canada, but right, Marcus? But it's even,
Listen,
a few people
it
said it's
dissipated
not
so
what it used to
badly.
be.
No,
Yeah.
because what it became in reality and why it was so popular is it became like an open market for mushrooms and cannabis. It was incredible. It was amazing. But the minute that market no longer was allowed or needed, I guess, because now there were so many stores that it just seemed redundant to go into Vancouver with like pounds of weed and try to sell. Like, sure, maybe to some core people, but the masses were now just going into stores and buying it. So it kind of crippled the funding again, right? No more funding, no more big stage with Cypress Hill and but those last few were unbelievable. They must have been 50 plus thousand people on the beach in Vancouver. And being around the whole scene, I was lucky enough to just be able to kind of stand on the side of the stage and I'll watch it all unfold with all the sea of people and the bands and all the characters, Jody and Johnny B and Ramo and just all of the characters that I've grown up with here kind of over the last 25 to 30 years in Vancouver. I call them the lifers. They're just lifers in cannabis. They'll never stop. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, there's something about the passion. Some of us are just born to push the plant. I don't know what it is. It's just
Well,
something
it's
ingrained.
almost like you were just about to say it. It's almost like cordyceps. It has, I don't want to say infected our brains, but
Yeah.
it has like
It's fucking
attached itself
infected our
to our
brains. Who the fuck are you kidding? We're fucking fucked.
Dude, I'm not. I'm not so
Everybody
different.
on here is fucking hardcore. Nobody here is a half-asser, okay?
Like I made 9 new crosses that like I'm already starting to go through, and I'm gonna single all those down and then make more out crosses probably next month with them. Just like
Nice.
us all, we're all the same.
And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
I just smoked like 12 grams of melt in like the last week. It's not
Uh,
good. I mean, it was
Oh,
great.
poor Bubble Man. Oh,
Jars are
oh.
getting low, Etienne. Jars are getting low.
Slings and
Listen, we're
arrows
gonna
of
have to
outrageous
up you,
fortune. Huh?
Marcus. Gotta get you smoke signals.
Yeah, trust me. To the Vatican. Smoke signals to the Vatican. That's needed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
What else is your group doing these days, Russ?
The organization.
Yeah, like what's kind of the big, I mean, it's been around for quite some time now,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
right. I know it's been wild. Like I was just thinking, I'm like, dude, it started in 2016,
That's what I thought.
and I'm like, has it really been a decade? It's so wild, bro. It's like it does not. I don't know. Time is like a wormhole. It's like a weird paradox where it's slow in the moment, and you look back on it, and it's like an instant.
Yeah. I think it has a
But
lot to do with your experience. When you're
yeah,
younger and you have less experience, time travels slower.
yeah, I don't
As you
know.
gain more experience, you start like
Yeah.
experiencing time faster.
Yeah, and maybe I'm just like more organic in my approach. I like it's like a joke. It's this ongoing joke where I'm like approaching this as an organic growth cycle. We're like, that's an important lesson I've learned. It's like capitalism wants to fly through, fly upward, like trajectory is up. But this organic growth is kind of like slow and methodical, and it goes up over a long period of time, but it's more stable. The
Yeah.
turtle, the turtle wins the race.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've been doing this. I've been getting into what I really actually I'm getting back to is the idea of wanting to. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I just saw my dog like running across the yard, and he had some weird thing all over he's got a huge antler. So
He's
that was
got an
that
antler.
looked really weird. I was like, what is that on his face? Sorry. Um, I originally founded Cha as an educational tool, and I had this membership, and I was like building this out. And education was hard for me to monetize. Education's very hard sometimes. You have to be very capitalistic. Hey, bro, let me tell you how I know everything, and you should follow me and like do all this stuff, and you'll learn from me. So just give me money. I don't do that. I hate that. I just like like no. So over time, growing and breeding, I was like, well, I'll just do seeds because seeds are a physical commodity. People buy those. Then I can just use the seed money to educate. And that's kind of like what it morphed into.
Mhm.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, like what I really would love to do is get some type of funding set up to where CHA is literally a research facility where we are literally just getting paid to study and research the plant, like how phytotoxic are certain organic sprays? How can we treat HLVD with living soils? Different, the microbiome biology. How does it affect plant health? There's a billion different things I'd love to research, and if I could get paid for doing that, that would be my dream to do that. And I probably could do it. I just need to pursue it. It's like everything in life, you just have to like start putting it out there and just doing it and failing at first and then just keep doing it. So I've sort of,
Yep.
yeah, that's sort of like where my trajectory might be headed into that world. There's all sorts of there's grant money all over the place. I was just talking with my buddy in Medford. He's got 10 acres. He's like, well, let's grow hemp. And I'm like, okay, sure. What, there's grants for hemp growth for carbon sequestration, hemp
Mhm.
grants for, you could probably study hemp graphene. Hemp graphene is like really all sorts of cutting edge technologies or, ways of, environmental stewardship you can get grants for usually. So there's all sorts of like, modalities this could go. But right now, it's just seeds and genetics and breeding. I'm very, very excited about that. It's like Easter, I get just like new, what's this? Like I get all stoked. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's like crazy mad scientists just cry. Okay, this is cool. Oh, no, no, that's not good. Throw that away, Oh, yeah. So that to me is like really fun and exciting part of it. And then getting feedback. My favorite thing is getting feedback from the growers. Like, dude, check out this cool plant. Look at this thing. It's amazing. You get to see the photos and the joy from the customers. I really love that. And then networking with you guys. Like that's the penultimate is like developing relationships with the community and sharing in bonds.
That's awesome, man. That definitely sounds like a pretty legit pathway forward for sure.
Yeah.
And you could see, like, I mean, having a vehicle like Cha and making it available, more and more people are doing this work on all levels, from, like the grassroots level to the highest level of genomics, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
which means everyone's looking, everyone's excited. We know as the cannabis community that the what you're looking for, I think, is less novel cannabinoids and more novel volatile organic compounds,
Yeah.
more novel flavor profiles.
Yeah.
Those are the things. And if you can complexify them, if you can create
Yeah.
one that smells like something,
Yeah.
tastes like something, and exhales like something completely different, like,
Oh yeah. Holy Grail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
just a very unique experience. Yeah, that's why this whole they were getting back into the landrace stuff. I think there's a huge push in the right groups to like explore some of the older because it's just been so with the cookies and runts and the modern hybrids. It's just been the gene pool has been like consolidated. Now we have to go out or just go back a little bit. I'm getting back into the gas stuff a lot, which makes me interested in the gas mask. I'd love to maybe try that out.
I'd love
But
to share some
I know
things
a
with you.
guy who can get it to you.
nice.
I know, guy. I know, guy.
So,
I'm really excited because Kevin went to that trip to Pakistan last year with Danny and those guys, and he brought
Right.
back a ton of seeds. He gave some to Eddie from Dank Maven over there in Medford, and Eddie got me some of those Hopar Valley Kush seeds, and I grew those out. And it's just really cool getting actual seeds from like the last time it was grown was in Pakistan, and now you're growing it in your greenhouse. And it's volatiles. It's not even that tricky, but the volatiles are like, whoa, like this is wild. So of course I had to hit it with an SFVOG, just
Hell
gas.
yeah.
I'm trying to get that, like I'm trying to bring out some because Kevin made a selection. I remember I was watching a YouTube and he was like reading through all his selections. This one's aromatic floral, and he's like, this one's wet chemical petrol. And I'm like, yes, the wet chemical petrol. That's what I want. So Eddie gave me that one. And so I'm excited to try to, you know, express some of those crazy volatiles in some of the OGs, like bring it into the OGs and gas and like really try to express some of that old. I'm definitely on the hunt for the old skunky gassy stuff now. I've experimented so much and created so much with exotic candy fruit washers. But now I'm like really transitioning back to my roots, which is like the gas. I love it. That's what I would smoke the most. I don't smoke that much anymore. I eat edibles, I'll dab a little. But if I was smoking, I'd be like, what do you really want to smoke? It's like the gas. I just want gas.
I think Brian and I both like the gas a lot. Every
yeah.
time we get together, it's like gas, fuel, you know.
Yes. Sour, gas, whatever.
You know
Yeah.
what would be cool? Do you have any genetics from Nepal where you could do an
No,
SFV throwback on the Nepalese?
that sounds cool. No, but that's a good idea.
Yeah, it sounds like something that
It sounds
have you heard that Nepalese start like land start to some of the OG Kush, or is that a little conversation open up as far as what you not here in America from like, east to west coast, but more like it's the lineage for the real SFE
Yeah, I'm
or
always interested. I don't know a lot about it. So if you have any intel, I'm always ears open to hear what other people, you
me
know.
too. I tied some of it came back to Nepal
Huh.
on I had heard, so that's where I think like an SFE throwback on some type of nice
Yeah, that would be
Nepalese.
trippy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
My buddy, I just ran into this guy in my kid's schooling soccer, and he's from Washington, and he just random conversation, and he's like, oh, he said he claims to have a skunky plant, more roadkill skunk. He calls it the Skagit skunk from
Uh,
Washington State, Skagit. And I'm like, dude, let's try it out. Let's see I'll trade you some seeds and like, let's see. Cause that's always a hard, that like Marcus said earlier, is like, from my understanding, right, the roadkill skunk smell was like bred away from more to
Correct.
like the cheesy, fruity skunk. Cause it
Yep.
was so crazy volatile. And that other cheesy, fruity skunk was like not as strong. And then that like filtered away from that. But I think everyone's looking for that RKS.
Yeah.
Everyone knows.
there, oh, go
We
ahead,
asked
Bob.
Sam a few times on here. I think it's well documented that he had said that he enjoyed the less skunky version. So
Okay.
he
Yeah.
naturally spread away from that
Selected
for
away. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for his personal choice. But yes, he did say that at one point it did have that acrid, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I don't know. There's something to that. There's something to that. I think it's medicinal. I think there's some medicinal nature that we don't fully understand, hasn't been studied.
Well, I like looking at the older catalogs, the Sensi catalogs from the late 80s or early 80s. You can see the structures of these plants, and when I look at contemporary outcrosses, I kind of portal and start to
Mm.
see the similarities and what's in the actual genetic makeup of them.
Yeah,
So
I've kind of like wanted to go back and cross like some Northern Lights and Afghanis, and
yeah,
haze it, just do some like crazy outcross, in crossing, outcross, just experimenting with those, just seeing what comes out of those populations would be fascinating.
yeah, like
Hey,
this
Mark.
is an NL, this is an
Sorry.
NL5 I shot of 35 millimeter, like way back in the
Oh, crazy.
90s. And
Nice. That's rad.
every grow I have all these contact sheets I was looking at, and was like, man, I should really try to, get more prints made of some of this stuff because there's a lot of genetics in there that I don't have anymore.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and just
like
looking at the plant morphology tells a story, it's really cool.
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
But
rad.
yeah, but it's, I think those are the things I think we're all looking for is trying to go and and backwards a little bit to try to grab some of those notes that we love out of things like GMO, and why GMO is so awesome is because of these, those flavor notes that it's able to produce. It reminded us why it was so good.
Right?
It's like the new skunk to me.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
crazy. It's crazy it has scatol in it. That's wild.
it's awesome, yeah. Well, it's so it's a very unique one. I think the Chem D alone is really awesome if you've grown that.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yep. I did some
Really
breeding with it. Yeah.
one of my favorites. But the 91 is a little bit more sour leaning, right? Like even back, I remember I used to grow Chem 91 in sour, and we just like call everything sour because it was just like what
Mhm.
everyone wanted to hear.
It's
Yeah,
very
So
deep.
I haven't grown the 91 by itself. I got a bunch of seeds from CSI, who I like Caleb a lot. He's a really old school breeder. And I got the Chem D, grew out a bunch of those. Then he had a Chem D times Chem 91 that
yeah,
he called the Big Bad Wolf. And I like that one better. There were some ones that like had a little bit, yeah, it seemed like slightly a little sour-ish. Like there's just something in the flavor profile that was slightly different. It was just slightly different.
91's just a slightly different plant. I mean, we would, back when I used to grow a lot of sour on its own, it was just really popular. So whatever you were giving people would turn into whatever their narrative. It's funny, like I think Marcus always says this, and he says it well. It's like people change history or change the narrative to fit what they're after. So I think that's another thing with sour diesel today. There's so many clones being flown around right now because like Res Dog had his era of seeds, and even CSI has made their own outcrosses, which are respectfully great. Like the turbo diesel, if anyone's ever grown those from Humboldt CSI, they're fantastic. But so now it's really difficult, I think, amongst the sea of clones because there's so many people
Yeah.
growing today
I
to
will
really
say this.
narrow it down.
Yeah, with
You
sour,
know,
there's something weird about seeds. I never have found a seed sour that I'm like, this is a sour.
100%.
It's
I was
there's
just
something with the heterozygosity of the genes. When you
totally,
cross it, it's like not sour. And I'm just like, this is
totally.
like, I wanted to breed sour, and I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it because I know it's not going to be sour. And I'm just like, I don't know why, but it's not. So I made some sour. I did a lime sour cross with Mean
Yep,
Gene, lime 5 sour, and it's got some really, the
yep,
S1 actually has some crazy sour dominant plants. And
yep,
it's like fun, but I know it. I'm not trying to make it sour. I crossed it back to the AJs and Weasels, and it's got
yep.
some notes. It's not sour though, but I just haven't found seeds that like are sour. It doesn't exist.
Well, the funny thing about AJ and Weasel, just to call that out for a second, is I actually sequence those with medicinal genomics just to kind of, and I've done that. If you go on my profile, you'll see a ton of sours on
Oh,
there, and there's a
oh, cool. I'll
reason.
check it out.
It's because we you kind of want to understand what the relationship of this stuff with names, air quotes, have,
Yeah, right.
to the rest of the world around us, and it's really difficult to decipher sometimes where these things came from and who's held it and how long and where is it really from and all that. And the idea of Albany sour, like a friend of mine yesterday who's from New York City was like, dude, I don't remember Albany sour. He's not even a grower. He's like, there was no such thing as Albany sour. Like, what are people creating in their mind? Like, sure, there was packs that went up there, but like that's not where it was grown. And There wasn't the clone called Albany
Yeah,
Sour.
no, that was Bro. That was Bro, right? Keith Lance, right? Was a
Totally.
guy up in Albany, right?
Yeah,
And
and
he,
like someone had the clone, right? Sour Diesel, the
yeah.
clone. There was no such thing as AJ Sour Diesel. It just was Sour Diesel, and that was it. And there was people that, were some people talked more than others, So
Well,
there's
AJ will claim that didn't he get his cut from that dude that he met at Wetlands, the
right.
God, the Weasel, the
Weasel,
guy from
but
Staten Island.
so Weasel, I had exactly. So and then the Weasel Diesel and the whole yeah. So
The Weasel Diesel.
that's the whole. There's a whole story there. But okay, so it's just we'll stick to the. We'll just cut the fat. We'll cut. Stay focused because that's a really good tangent we could go on there. But there was a clone Sour Diesel that was passed around. It was very hard to get, and it was so hard to get that people started making outcrosses, and it was so hard to get that people started saying that they had it, and it just proliferated from there, and that's why it's still today so confusing, because there's just a lot of, like someone gave us an East Coast Sour Diesel clone this summer. We grew it. I have it in a jar over there. It's like, wait, how is this?
They're
It
chasing the
was
Sour Diesel ghost.
sure, but I do think it is alive, and I do have it, and it does
Yeah,
exist. I've seen it. I can say
believe
that
you.
with truth. Um,
Pretty
you know,
changing too, I've
there's a jar of
noticed.
it
Like,
right here, actually.
Oh,
Um,
nice. That's like
but
one of my faves.
but my point of saying all this, man, is that I think it's really hard to decipher where things come from sometimes, and it's nice to have some science to help us and some genomics to help us kind of ingest this stuff into a system so we can all, if we all participate enough, it starts to, take shape like an image being created in a dark room.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So,
Well, I'm
so
glad you guys are doing that hard work. It's not easy. It's not easy work.
no, it's a long term. This is like we'll talk in another 30 years about what we've learned, kind of thing. And every year we'll figure it out. Um, but yeah, you should do hop laden. I'd love to see you do a hop laden viroid study. I mean, I did one. I did a controlled study myself, and Kevin helped me write a paper on it, and we did from medicinal genomics. I kind of partnered with him a little bit on it, and
No,
I just
cool.
think that conversation in general needs to happen with more people and
Yeah,
broader conversation, so we can all have more ideas,
yeah, yeah.
or
I think,
others to take to the table, and maybe even do more controlled studies with, and be more informed.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm convinced. Now, like sort of like talking about Josh and Kelly's cosmic intelligence. Like, I'm totally convinced that even though it's a viroid, it's not like a virus like HIV. The function of the immune system health of the plant is like vastly underrated. And
yeah,
like I would love to, if I were to do a study, I would set up a controlled study and have rock woolen salts, no microbes, and I'd have like a pure living soil bed with like a bunch of organic matter, vermicompost, compost, herbs like use dragonfly earth medicine products full with beneficial fungi and microbes, and and try to run and like do foliar sprays with like aloe, willow, things like SAR and ISR.
Trichoderma too. Like that's the thing about Natural Mystic. I was trying to get them in behind our little chat here to be like, talk about Natural Mystic and why it's so important. Well, it has really advanced herbs in there, and that fight
Yeah,
fusarium and all these
right.
soil-borne
Yeah,
illnesses that actually, to your point, drive the immune system of the plant over the life cycle of the season, or the time that you're actually going, through the cycle. And those are the results of why you're not hitting the full potential of what is actually there. And to add to that, like the other thing we should really be doing for commercial side of things is understanding the microbial loads of each cultivar. Like
hmm,
how much
yeah,
of X is it being attracted to it, and how much is being held on it, and those that are harder to deal with, let's put them over here and put more of the ones that are less over here.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's
so we don't have to, from an IPM perspective, we don't have to use
too
crazy
much.
chemicals because we're, you know,
Yeah. No,
Like
that's
what
interesting.
Sam
Yeah.
taught us, you know,
It's
use
funny.
it
I'd
in
never
your
thought
head.
about that actually, because we know that different plants have different nutrient loads. That's
Right.
obvious, but I
Yep.
never actually considered that plants have different microbial loads. But that makes a
They
lot of
totally
sense.
do.
That's
Yeah.
a
Kevin and I
fascinating.
talk about that a lot. I'd love to get him on the show, actually. Kevin McKernan is who I'm talking about from
Kevin's great. Kevin's my dog, bro. I love Kevin. I talked to him on Instagram. He's the best.
yeah, his knowledge of just the biology of things right now I think is really vast, and I
Yeah.
just like the his mindset on it. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really cool.
and he's pioneering all sorts of stuff beyond cannabis as well. He's really, people don't realize this, but he's like the spearhead of a lot of important research into the whole, medical pharmaceutical matrix.
Big time.
Sure.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
and people don't even recognize it, but he's like all of the core people like Brett Weinstein and Robert Malone and all these dudes like are like Kevin has you
Yeah,
should
they
look at
talk about
Kevin's
him.
knowledge. Yeah, they
Totally.
talk about Kevin. It's
Yep,
really fascinating, actually.
it
Cool.
is.
Yeah, no, he's I lived like 15 minutes from him for like 5 years now. So I go over
Nice.
I can
Oh,
go over
sweet.
to their office and drop samples off pretty quickly.
That's
So
rad, man. That's really cool.
yeah. Yeah, nice guys. But yeah, no, dude, I would love to see your organization do more things like that. If you have the opportunity to do
Yeah,
controls like that, or
I
you
just need to
find a
like,
varietal,
yeah.
like right now, there's a guy actually, reached out to me who's like, I want to dispel that tissue culture can't get rid of hop latent viroids. So I'm
Mm,
I'm actually going to give him two different varietals that we know have it,
mm-hmm.
and let's see what happens.
Yeah,
And
see if he can, yeah, clear it out. And then
yeah,
there's like a thing with
like
viral
proof in the
load.
pudding.
It's so
Yeah,
understood, underrated, not well understood. I'm trying to say.
Misunderstood.
yeah,
Misunderstood.
that's well
Viral
said,
load is
Marcus.
crucial. Viral load is like this is what all this BS in our own health is about also. Like we have the human body has like 480 trillion viruses in our genome. That's coding. It's a coding system. Like we are designed to like interact with viruses and they come in and then our immune system processes it. And if it's working properly, if we have enough magnesium or zinc or whatever, and we can deconstruct it and then it gets stored as code, like, oh yeah, we figured this out. Like, I don't know, there's just a huge world that could be explored with that. So
But
I would say
it's
I would hypothesize that in a living soil system grown properly, the viral load would be significantly lower. That would be my hypothesis
sure.
from a salt-based
Well,
system. That's what I would want to study.
I think it makes sense, and the one thing I think is that's really interesting to me is if you have a big enough property to do it and sequester something and do something like that, I think you should definitely be looking at that. Look at the soil. Like that's where Kevin and I started hypothesizing on like, well, what if it's in the roots? What if it's in the water? And like we just test all of these different things and just went through it. And for me, it was just really a blast to kind of like just brain dump, like, oh my gosh, well, what if it was on this glove? Like test the glove,
Right.
like,
Right. Yeah.
and trying
Yeah.
to understand, the
Vectors.
environment that we're around and what do we actually need to do, because when you start to see these symptoms, and then the other tidbit here is like when you look at all the data, some varietals, man, they have like just a touch of it and they can perform normal
Yeah.
until
Didn't Kevin
a
have a
certain
paper
stage.
on that? Kevin had a paper where it's like there was like a little thing where it's like one varietal just didn't have any HOV.
Exactly. I gave him so here's the thing. So I had a UK, you must be talking about the UK cheese. So and he mislabeled it, I think something, he called it something else, but I gave him a
Okay.
UK. It was super hot. It was like crazy, like the hottest we've ever seen it.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna keep growing it and I'm gonna put it outside. And I let it go until like now, like November or something. And I
Hmm.
remember like cutting it down and it was completely purple, right? And then I was like, Kevin, I think you should test the plant. I'll give you the whole thing because it looks normal. Like the flowers smell incredible. It's super gassy. I'll just like I chopped the whole thing down like at the base. I drove down, met him, just like did a hot swap, like gave him the plan. He tested it and he was like, "This is completely clean. This has zero hot blade viroid." And it had anti-cyans all over it. Like it was completely purple, right?
Right.
So like I don't yeah, I think there's way more to look into on that, like as I think he'd agree, but I do think it's a fascinating thing that happened because it was so hot. Like it wasn't like I swapped out the clones or something, or
Yeah.
it was the same plant, same soil, same everything, nothing different.
Just
So
stunned.
there's just something weird about it all. There's just so much to look into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear Kevin's thoughts on why something like that could actually happen, because
Yeah.
it's a
Well, it's inevitable that we're going to learn about this stuff faster and faster and faster, and we're going to get
yeah.
abilities to aggregate data in ways that we've never been able to before. We're going to have AI that's going to be able to go in and go over so much data at a time that if it's not AI, it's going to have to be something like AI to be used as the tool that allows humans to cover the depth of what is there. Otherwise, you think of these glaciers you guys are rolling off here. 100 years would be a tip of one with the current tools that we're having.
Yep. Well, that's where we're headed.
It's definitely where we're headed. I know some people don't like it too much, and other people are kind of stoked on it. I'm once again just trying to sit in the middle on the fence, going, "Hey, man, I'll fight for your right to use AI, and I'll fight for your right not to use AI, man."
Yeah. Yeah. It's a powerful tool for aggregating data. I mean, most powerful, really.
Yeah, yeah. I saw some doctor talking recently about how they're now doing surgery, these AIs through these robotic arms, and I guess the robots have like the razor blades are much thinner, and they can the what they can process is basically on the cellular level. So even the way they cut is like the least
Yeah.
damaging, and the way just all of it is kind of becoming pretty trippy in regards to how health may be looked at in the upcoming future,
Yeah,
how
I
we look
had
at health.
8 hours or no 6 hours of hernia repair surgery with a
Ooh,
robot. I had
a
no
robot?
idea. I had no idea I was being operated on by a robot.
Holy
I had
shit.
I had met the surgeon like a week before. Like I went to her office and she's just a regular doctor, and we just sat and she talked about the surgery a little bit, but I didn't know it was going to be a robotic surgery. And then the last thing I remember when they wheeled me into the operating room, because I had already been in kind of like pre-op where they get you IV'd up and they use the same sedative that I guess Michael Jackson died from, right?
Oh, that's
Propofol.
comforting.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that you're on
They
this
put
plane.
Thriller on, they give you the
Yeah, you're on this plane 1 minute, Marcus, and then you're just completely out. But the last image I remembered when they wheeled me into the operating room, I expected to see a regular operating room, but it wasn't an operating room at all. It actually looked like a MRI machine because they wheeled me under this thing and I saw my surgeon. I saw her there because I recognized her hair, but she had virtual reality glasses on and she had virtual reality gloves. And I got wheeled underneath this machine. And from what I understand, the robot has these probes that basically come down and do, orthoscopic surgery. For
Right.
hernia repair, what they need to do is they need to tuck your guts back in and then put in a polypropylene mesh that then becomes the muscle that's torn, which is the reason why your guts leak out of where they're supposed to be, you know. But
Unbelievable.
yeah, it was a really weird experience because I I had no clue I was going to be operated on robotically, and then yeah, they said should have been like a 4 hour surgery, but it ended up being a 6 hour surgery. Because the
Imagine
only
you're
time,
you're in the archaic version of that because in 5 years, people will be like, I saw my surgeon. She was a robot. There was no surgeon.
yeah,
It was
right, there was no
literally a
person.
robot.
Yeah, no, she was super
Wow.
knowledgeable, and again, I had just assumed that it was going to be, scalpel and, forceps kind of surgery, but no, it wasn't at all. It was totally robotic.
That's
Really
incredible.
weird. Yeah. Yeah.
Did
Well,
it go well?
there's a lot of surgeries like that because what they do, they end up minimizing the incision. Normally, what they would have done is they would have cut my belly open, kind of like the way a cesarean delivery would be made, right? And then that whole muscle has to heal. But this way, they can go in. There's like four bullet holes that were like in my gut, like where they went in and kind of tucked the guts in, put the mesh in there, and it sewed me up.
And Russ asked the question. I want to know the answer.
What's that?
Did it go well?
Oh, yeah. Well, here. So let's see. So this would have been in December of 2022. I started earlier that summer, in the summer of 2022. We were still living in Pennsylvania. This is before I moved to Vermont.
Right.
I was doing a little bit of work out in the backyard, and I know I had done some heavy lifting that day. It hadn't dawned on me that I actually had torn that muscle. But I guess
Oof.
when you lift in the wrong way, you could really put a strain on that muscle. So you have to make sure that when you lift super heavy items that you don't inadvertently tear that muscle. I didn't realize I had torn it at the time. But I remember after dinner one night, and I know it was that summer, I felt kind of like a pain in my lower belly that reminded me of, for those of us who grew up around a swimming pool, remember that belly ache that you got at night after you spent like all day in the swimming pool and you took big
The
mouths of
chlorine
chlorinated
poisoning?
water. All that chlorinated water got down in your gut and gave your
Just
lower
killed the
intestines.
biome, killed the
Yeah,
entire
it just
biome of
basically
yours.
exactly. It just wipes out all the beneficial biotics down there. So yeah, so that belly ache that I was getting in the lower belly was kind of like a symbol that there's something weird because it wasn't like that indigestion or anything. But then I know that I was out in Las Vegas at the fish shows, and I noticed for the first time when I looked down at my belt line, like just above my pubic area, it
That you had
started.
two dicks?
Well, no, it just started becoming swollen and inflamed,
Oof.
and I noticed that yeah, there was kind of like this. Belly lower than my belly starting to form. I'm like, this isn't good. And certainly when I went in and came
Fuck.
back and looked, my doctor looked at it, knew right away this is what they call an umbilical hernia tear. And it's pretty common
It's very
in
common.
white men my age who
It
are
can
still
happen.
using.
It can happen to anyone, but one thing I will say that is a really good way to hopefully avoid it is like weight training and just like so you make all the muscles around it even a bit more strong. So it's not necessarily like you're going to train that one muscle that tears in a hernia.
Right.
But plus, as you get older, I find the weight training is incredible. Everyone has one little thing. Oh, I got this thing in my. It's like then make everything around that so much stronger that you can actually gain the time and the resources to fix the thing that's actually hurt. Because it's usually a major thing, whether it's in your hip or your back or your neck or your. But yeah, hernias are. Oof,
Oh, it's super painful
it's
because I
not
mean,
good.
all the food that you eat when you end up taking a shit, right, goes through your intestines, and certainly like if there is, a not an obstruction, but what happens is your intestines don't have the ability to expand and really hold everything that they need to hold as it's coming through. So yeah, it is a painful process. And here's the interesting thing. This was right at the end of COVID. And so like 6 months earlier, I wouldn't have been able to get my operation because it was actually viewed as like uh
Non-necessity.
not a necessity, right? And even though it's not a necessity,
Because it's not their hernia.
I was in absolute pain. I mean, and there's nothing they could really give you for that pain because it's just, I don't know, it's just your body telling you that something's fucked up, right? So luckily I was able to get in after COVID. And yeah, I would say that I had post-operative pain for like the first 6 months, and you end up getting what's called, this is kind of interesting. You get something called a hydrocele, which is basically your 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 scrotum gets inflamed and it makes your balls seem really big. So all of a sudden you have a big set of balls. What it is, it's kind of like the same way you get water on the knee. So there's a lot of water that kind of builds up in the scar tissue that forms, and that eventually goes away. But yeah, yeah, you have really super big balls for the first 6 months after a hernia repair surgery. It's perfectly normal, but man, it's super uncomfortable.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
I think I'll avoid that.
Wait, lift those weights.
Yes, true. I'm telling you, don't lift
Yeah.
so many. Like my son lifts way too many. I saw him lifting weights we were at the Westin in Whistler for my wife's birthday a couple days ago, and he must have been lifting close to 300 pounds. I was just like, my God, like that would give me a hernia. How about
There's
that?
probably some truth to that too, because again, like if you work out that muscle, you're gonna have a lot more, you tear a muscle when your muscle is not in shape. You could easily tear
Right.
your hamstring. I had not been too athletic, or certainly didn't exercise enough. And I was just playing in a baseball game, and I was rounding second. I was like, I hit the ball out in the outfield and I was rounding second, and I pulled my hammy, and oh my God, I fell in the dirt right there. It was so painful because when you don't have a hamstring, you can't run. It's like it's the muscle that's behind your thigh, and it's super painful. And yeah, so it's probably speaks to staying in shape and making sure that you don't overexert, because muscles can tear and they certainly are painful
Well,
when
I
they do
find as
so.
I deep delve into cannabis and get obsessed with cannabis and learn all about the things that cannabis can do, and we learn all about the medicinal attributes and this, that, and the other thing. It's like what cannabis has taught me was to be like, yeah, like if you want to grow the best cannabis, then also be the healthiest version of yourself. It's like, why wouldn't you? Don't those two things align? It's like, oh, I only smoke the best cannabis, but I eat Big Macs. It's like,
Well,
Yeah.
do better.
after I had the hernia repair, I'm not say it's funny, but it was interesting how many people I talked to that also had hernia repair surgery, and people who are completely healthy and normal. I mean, I'm a
Oh,
little
it can happen to
overweight, but
anyone, dude.
it can happen to anyone,
Anyone,
right?
even someone who's lifting weights and taking super good care of them can absolutely give themselves a hernia.
Totally.
There's a point of no return that it doesn't matter how strong you are. If you lift too much, you'll tear that muscle.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
for sure. That's for sure. I know healthy people, like athletically healthy people who have absolutely torn their hernia. Like,
I think it comes from like heavy lifting and then the turning. It's like turning while lifting.
oof.
Maybe there's some science there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one to not have to experience, I think. I've
Yeah, but
experienced I broke 17 bones. I don't need a hernia.
I so here are a couple firsts for me. I had never been checked into the hospital. I mean, I had been to the hospital certainly for my kids' births, and had checked my wife into the hospital. I had never worn a bracelet. Never. I'd never stayed overnight at a hospital, never had any surgery. So this was definitely a new thing for me. And yeah, the robot, I saw someone mention this in the chat. The robot was the Da Vinci robot. And this is like super high tech, where medical science has gone today. Marcus, what I was thinking when you were talking about this too is, maybe at some point that operation doesn't even need to be done with the surgeon in the room, right? Like maybe she could be remote, like either in another room or maybe even at home, right? And be able to use. So she had virtual reality gloves on, like she had electrodes and everything on her glove. So she was obviously operating the robot, which was operating on me using her hands and her her surgical technique. Like imagine what they're going to be able to do in the future when you put AI involved in that, and you basically have some type of artificial intelligence interface between the surgeon or the doctor and the patient. That there's some I don't even know what
Okay.
it's going to look like. Like you're just going to go into a
You just
booth
have
and
to
it's just
watch
going to.
like a Marvel movie. And when they go to the like the hospital part, like I watched the Wolverine with my son the other day. I can't remember which one it was. He goes to Japan to say goodbye to some dude that he saved during the bombings. And the guy's like a super billionaire and wants his ability to heal. And the hospital bed that he has, it's all like these metal posts that like shift and change to move him on the bed, and everything is can be seen in his organs operational. It's like the super futuristic shit. I worked with this Chinese woman for a small time with a biomedical company just about a year and a half ago. She's in Richmond. And that's what she does. She brings in equipment like this Da Vinci SP robot for HPB surgeries. Like it is insane. And other things that are like for, what I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically for telling you what's wrong. You lay on this bed and then it does all these crazy Star Trek things and measures your blood pressure and like looks at your blood flow and just looks at a whole bunch of trippy shit. It's definitely a unique future we're going to live in. With all of these different robots that are coming. It's kind of trippy.
Yeah. And that's like, yeah, that's the part of science that's amazing. Absolutely like wildly amazing. If they can figure out how to integrate the part that's missing, which is the problem that I see, is that that the holistic side of the internal nutrition is what's lacking. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that's the missing piece. That's the problem with the whole uh, monetization of medicine in
Exactly.
that regard. And but that's what cannabis is like the cornerstone
Well,
to
that's the
kind
sore thumb. When you go, people are like, what do you mean you don't go to the hospital? How can you not trust them? It's like, okay, well, I'll show you how I don't trust them. Let's go to the hospital right now. Let's come with me. Let's go to the cafeteria. Here, look at this food. It's
of
totally
yeah,
not fucking edible. And
right,
this is a hospital. So how could
right,
you trust a hospital that would poison the people that are currently in it? The
yeah,
food is so bad in
yeah.
hospitals.
It's ironic, right?
It's not
The
even
food is supposed
ironic.
to,
It's
yeah,
psychotic.
yeah. Like where's the Brussels sprouts for
What
the
the fuck,
healing?
dude?
Like
How about some
where's
kimchi? I don't know.
yeah, and
Like,
kimchi and firm yeah, exactly. Oh man, I love me some kimchi.
yeah. Why are
Yeah,
we drinking Pepsi at the hospital when you could get a kombucha?
right.
Like,
Yeah.
why aren't they teaching about gut health at the hospital and saying, look, most of this stuff is related to your gut
I'll,
health, so we're mostly going to fix your stomach and your
I'll
gut
tell you
health?
why. I'll tell you exactly why. I'm like the primo example because when I was till I was like 28, I would go to the doctor like 10 times per year. That's how like
Jesus.
immunologically sick I was, like roughly, right? And then I went to Humboldt and I met this acupuncturist and it totally revolutionized, like flipped the script. I went from going 10 times a year to once in 10 years. Like that's how much I was able to like avoid going to the doctor. And it was all diet nutrition changes, right? So like think if everyone did that, the whole profession would the monetization of it would collapse. It would fall out. And we have the backbone, which is the technical side of the surgical part, which is incredible. But all of the other stuff would like be extremely limited to them making money.
Yeah, we
And
just need to cut the fat on that and keep the value. There's a lot of value there. Like Western medicine is crazy and it's wild, and with stem cells and growing
oh yeah,
people's teeth backs and bringing people's
oh it's
hearing
wild.
back from being
Yeah,
deaf. Like there's a lot of incredible experience. Like for
yeah,
me, it should be once again, it should be that compassion is a verb.
yeah.
Like
Right,
it's like
right.
it's an action. So
Yeah,
it's like when you're doing something to help
yeah,
people. I mean, the
yeah.
Hippocratic Oath is to do no harm. Strange oath should be to, like, I don't know why it's a double negative, but it's like let's just do good. How about we make that the oath, to do good? No confusion
Oh, they
there.
they call it practicing medicine.
Yeah.
Nobody's mastered that shit.
That's for
Yeah.
sure. I'm always afraid to go with the person who's practicing. It's like they don't call it practicing mechanic, even though aren't we all practicing? We all know we're practicing, but when you put the word in the front, it's like having that big N on the back of your car when you're driving. It's like it tells me I shouldn't be behind you. At least here in Vancouver, we have the N for new drivers.
Oh, that's what really? That's
Yeah,
a
they're
thing.
usually like 16, 17, 18-year-old kids
Oh,
that
that
have
makes
the,
sense actually. You can
yeah.
keep your distance.
Well, there's only one thing worse than a green N, and that is, of course, a red L, which is the learner's permit that you get before you get your N. So
Oh,
you should really be afraid of those people,
oh,
which, of
hilarious.
course, we all would have been at one point. I never had to go through that, but my kids both had to be L's and then N's, and then, move on from that. That's how it goes.
That's funny, man. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, in the
super
States,
funny.
we just usually have a bumper sticker that says student driver, right?
Or the thing on the top that's like the taxi thing where it says student driver, like with the two lights
Yeah.
on either side.
That's when they're
Uh,
learning, right? In that
Yeah.
car. Yeah, yeah.
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 That's when
That's
you
the
really
car that
want to
has
go in.
two steering wheels.
Well,
Right. Yeah.
in America, the learner's permit is also shot by profile. It's not your forward as well.
That's hilarious.
Well, hey,
Awesome.
Marcus, I probably got a jet. I got the kids and the wife.
Well, thanks for
Um,
spending so much time with us, Russ. Really
yeah.
appreciated it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been really a pleasure, honored, and nice to meet all of you guys. And hopefully we can do this again.
Why don't you tell everyone quickly where they can find you?
Oh, yeah, sure. The website's www.cha.education, and the Instagram handle is also at cha.education. It's kind of hard to find. Uh, sort of shadow banned is the word. So you got to type the whole word out, cha.education.
I just
Um,
posted it into the chat as well
Thanks.
as your
Thanks,
website.
bro. Yeah, and I'm usually there. I'm usually in that app quite a bit. And then I'm working. So those two places, come check it out. If you have any questions, I'm always available to chat on Instagram. You can see the backup accounts too. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Awesome,
Russ.
dude. Thank you so much. Have a great day. And
Yeah, I'll talk
we'll-
to you guys later about genetics and stuff. I'd love to
yeah,
chat later.
yeah, we'll get you back on here for sure.
Thanks,
So
Russ.
it was
Nice to
nice
meet
meeting
you,
all
brother.
of you guys.
Nice to meet
Godspeed.
you.
Peace, bro.
Peace.
Super good, dude. I love having new folks come on and share with us and just fit right in and just be like a great addition to the panel. It was super nice. I mean, you guys have all
Great guy.
shared 100+ hours with each other, and he just flowed really nicely. I appreciate
Yeah.
Russ. And Etienne, your human mistake made me realize I should invite Ross onto Hash Church and have him come tell his crazy Olympic story and he's got a whole cannabis company now, Ross's Gold.
Yeah, I follow him on Facebook. That's why
Awesome.
they look similar.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'll get him on here for sure. I've been talking to Kaya, and I think that's going to be November 9th.
Cool.
See if I can find it real quick here. I can't. I tried. Yeah, I have a good show planned with Kaya from Kaya's Coffee there. Down in Washington. He's got a new company with a bunch of baller dudes that are all like, I think Chem Dog's in there and maybe OG Jaw. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't want to, I had the list, but I don't have it up right now. They're going to come do a show. We're going to talk more about genetics and breeding and seeds and whatnot. That's going to be in November 9th. I've also been talking a little bit to, Jimmy from the original Breeders League, and he's been doing some monster project. And Mojave and Rob have worked a little bit with him on that project, as well as some other folks. So we'll get some of those guys in. Be nice to hear from Mojave again, and always nice to have Rob Clark on the panel sharing with us. So that's going to be another show that we're planning here in the near future. And I got a couple others that I'm trying to plan. I mean, lately we've just been doing a lot of these wonderful just whatever happens hash churches, which I love, but I do appreciate when we put a little bit of energy to actually create a proper conversation that flows through, like the volatile organic compound show. That was a really good one. We definitely got to do that again. I do feel as well, Etienne, maybe you could help with this. Before Wade passed away, he had mentioned a few times that he wanted to do a hash church show on compassion. And so we got to kind of figure out how to do that. I would think right off the bat, when I think of compassion, I would think Hillary Black from the BC Compassion Club. I would think Valerie Corral who I know would come and speak at a show that we were doing in honor of Wade, because this was really the last show that he wanted to do was the compassion episode. So let's yeah, maybe put our heads together on that in the near future and see who we can bring together to honor Wade and to honor
Forrest.
compassion.
Yeah.
Forrest,
Yeah, you should
right?
bring Monica on.
Forrest, yes, of course. Monica, yes,
And
absolutely.
Forrest too, because Forrest we're going to try to get to the UN.
I heard. That's amazing. That's I think that's really good.
How is Silas doing? Do we know?
Great. I got to meet him. He's a normal 18-year-old kid who was shy and just wanted to play on his phone. It was
Awesome.
really fucking cool. I mean, I hated the funeral and everything about it, but to meet Silas, and he's a big boy now. He grew a lot. I mean, he grew out of his epilepsy and he is he looks and acts like a normal 16-year-old, he was all, kind of sheepish and stuff, but I was fucking happy to see it, because we watched Forrest suffer, and I
Oh,
sometimes hear the helicopters flying over my house going to the children's hospital, and I would wonder if that's Silas and on his way, because times there it was. So to know that he was able to benefit from this medicine and grow. And it's just a testimony to, Forrest and his family, as well as to Wade and Monica's compassion to help. It was, I hated to under those circumstances, but it was beautiful. If that makes sense. Life has those beautiful horrors, I think, to life sometimes that you always have to look toward the silver linings and the beautiful things. And the funerals aren't for the dead; they're for the living, right? So we always have to remember that.
Awesome. Well, Forrest definitely gets a nomination for World's Greatest Dad, right? Because, I
fuck yeah.
mean, yeah, I mean, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. Again, there's nothing that you want for your kids other than for them to be happy and healthy. And I'm sure the fact that what you're saying, ATN, is it sounds like Silas is kind of normal and not, in a world of hurt like he was before when they really didn't know what was wrong with him and they couldn't treat him anymore. So, yeah, it's great when, as a parent, you just it's terrible when you see your kids suffer. And when you see your kids suffer again and you know that cannabis could give them relief, but oh, it's against the law, right? It's just a fucking bunch of
No, and
bullshit.
he put it all on the line, and having to go to
Yeah.
Children's Hospital, there's no way his kid didn't come up positive. You got to explain that and deal with the doctors and all of that. I'm not a father. I don't envy that in any way, shape, or form. I have great humility and compassion for all of you fathers that have taken that upon yourselves. But it's still gut wrenching to hear and to see somebody go through something that, is just a miswiring of nature, and that, cannabis and hash church were here so that we could learn about him and their experiences, and that he could come and share his pain and his hurt. That had to be therapeutic to a certain resolve to, to finally be able to, I don't know, y'all are fathers. I can't explain it,
Yeah.
but I feel it, but you feel it at a different level, because once you have a child, I'm told it's basically nonstop worry from then on,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
have, right, but Marcus, Colin, it's a constant kind of a reality. I don't know if Brian, you have any kids or not, but I have cats and I have a wife, and that's hard enough. But to then raise a child and have to deal with them being sick and being ill, and then have to risk your freedom and your reality potentially, right? CPS is a reality, right? That's one reason I didn't have a kid, because I was a hardcore activist and I saw other hardcore activists get fucked with by Child Protective Services, to the point where it kind of made me go, if I'm going to take this route, I really don't want to go there or have my child be used against me. And that's something that Forrest risked greatly, right? And was able to somehow come out on the other side, which is another miracle unto itself.
Yeah, it is quite amazing. I'm pretty sure Forrest brought us Wade. Pretty sure
Yeah.
Forrest came
He
on
did.
and then
Yep.
brought Wade on. So what a blessing. It was
That's
always
right.
very difficult listening to Forrest tell his stories and holding back tears and, the suffering that that whole entire family was going through, along with Silas, this poor little boy just suffering from seizures. It really spoke volumes to the angelic properties of cannabis, and how potently, beyond medical or, like the actual like just what
Well,
an
it was all
incredible.
anecdotal, right? They didn't have
That's it.
science to really back it, right? They had to take chances. I mean, when he came on and told us about the butterfly children, I'd never heard of such horrible diseases that inflict the world. You know what I'm saying? Or that, it's it's disturbing to learn, but it's also humbling to realize that even though there are those horrible things out there, there are people like Wade and others who are
Mhm.
trying to help and heal those rare things.
Yeah,
And
Forrest relied on the Caladrius network, and I think when he talked about that, we were like, "Oh, what is this all about?" And it ended up being that was Wade's thing. And 18, wasn't it the change in the California regulation that then snuffed that whole thing out? They couldn't, so the compassion element of being able to get these kids medicine was now against the law.
It
You're
that's
muted,
why
definitely
we had,
is.
sorry, we had, that's why we had to create laws like SB 34, which is now AB 2555, which
right?
allows for compassionate giving because originally in Proposition 215, that's what it was expected. There was no money, it was to be collective and given away. So we had to change those laws to exist because really Valerie and Mike Corral were the true collectives doing it, coming together collectively. Everybody had to contribute, whereas we felt that public wanted to pay. There was an availability now for patients who, congratulations, you just found out today you've got scheduled whichever cancer, and now you've got to deal with chemotherapy next
Mhm.
week, right? These are the realities that we were engaged with, as well as, again, relying on other anecdotal patients until the science caught up. But yes, that's part of the eternal vigilance of liberty there, Mark, is that even though we had passed the law, the
Mhm.
law changed from Prop 215 to Prop 64, but that free giving wasn't in 64. So we had to go to Sacramento. We had to lobby. Thankfully, there was Weed for Warriors Project and various others that stepped up and helped. And then in the next reiteration, which just happened this past year, California Normal, and various other organizations, we all had to go testify up on in Sacramento so that we could continue
Mhm.
to give away tax-free cannabis. So,
Right.
and that is, again, that goes for another 5 years, and then we're gonna have to go back and do it again because that's just the reality of things. So, and which
And
sucks is because California is the only one that does this. There are other
right.
states that could be doing this, but that don't. Not only have we been around for 26 years, I've been giving away free cannabis for 26 years. Regardless of the law, I would buy it and still give it away because there's people who cannot afford it. And even though it crosses every socioeconomic, barrier, medical grade cannabis is expensive and people cannot afford it. So we have a California standards for what meets low income, and if you meet that, then part of our law in Berkeley is we have to give away 2% of what we make. And so we implored that law in hopes that others would actually learn from our compassionate giving and follow suit. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, nobody really did. And we're proud of what we have here in California, but we wish the other 49 states would do so. And I don't know what's happening in Canada in the sense of if you're a low income patient, and I know that you can order directly from the National Pharmacy app and have it at your door within 48 hours, but what about those that are low income who can't afford it, who are just been found out they're having a serious disease? Marcus, what sort of compassionate situation is there? I know some of the clubs still exist, but what happens to
Yeah.
them?
I mean, honestly, a lot of them just got I don't know if I think finally even the BC Compassion Club closed. I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to say that if that's not the case. I know that Selena, who's been on here many times, has her Flower of Life thing that she's been doing, trying to get it into this sort of level of more legality than in the gray, but she was doing, kind of one of the last people that I knew that was doing that work. Like if my uncle called me and said, "Oh, I need to renew my license," mostly support for patients, but in reality, the access point now in Canada is through recreational. So I would say that the majority of patients in Canada, regardless of what they know, are researching online to find out what kind of tunes into what they have and then going and buying it recreationally. There's very little, there are medical platforms, there's a few of them, and I don't know at what level. I can just tell you that when we had no recreational and every single person was a medical patient, and then medical came in, it seemed like 90% of medical patients were people waiting for recreational. Like they were still using cannabis, and it could be said that it was being used medically, but not the same as what we know, like certain people that are using it, like there's differences. I mean, all use is medical. I agree, but at the same time, it's unfortunate the way it played out and how it'll play out in every country afterwards, since Canada did it and other countries did it before. It's all on the backs of patients and medical and the promotion of this is going to be a medical thing. And a lot of the companies that invest are creating infrastructures to support recreational when it appears. And a lot of them, and I mean a lot of them, jump ship when recreational pops up after medical. It's kind of unfortunate, and it's too bad someone doesn't recognize that and say, hey, this isn't the best way for us to do this, because in the end, it's the patients who kind of get fucked. And I'll give you a perfect example. My mom used to get oil tinctures from Whistler, not therapeutics, but Whistler Medical in Whistler. They had a bunch of different oils they sold. They had 18 different ones. And out of all the different companies, she was the most excited because she could order those oils and she could use them to go to sleep. She wasn't into feeling the effects, but she was, able to at least get the one she wanted when she wanted. Plus, there was a variety of choice. And when that company got bought by Aurora, they kind of like overnight ended up having like two tinctures, which she was kind of like, "Oh, they have two, but they're not really the ones I want." Like there were three that I liked out of the 18, and these two that they have now aren't those three. And I heard that story that I heard from my mom from a lot of people, and not just from Whistler Medical and Aurora, but like you could just see the guards changing as medical was turning into rec. And I think that it wasn't super good for medical patients here. But now they have a ton of access along with recreational patients. It's a tough one. How do you isolate and separate the two when really, the way they do it in Canada, they make it against the law to say that there's anything medicinal about it. Yet all of our licenses are because there's medicinal value. But Health Canada, who gives those licenses, have publicly acknowledged they don't believe there's any medicinal value in cannabis, even though they give licenses to Canadians under our Charter of Rights that say we can use cannabis as a medicine. So by making that law, once again, they fuck the patients, because the patients could have just gone to cannabis dispensaries and been like, look, I need one for I have like tremors. Is there a good one for tremors? Or I need to stimulate my appetite. They can't tell them. They're not allowed here in Canada in the recreational to tell them. So the medical institutions have like handcuffed the cannabis and been like, look, we don't want you over here. Go over there, be sold at gas stations and dispensaries, and we'll take care of the medicine over here. So there's definitely animosity and condescension and, other energies that are still at play, unfortunately. Hopefully it'll play out sooner than later. But once again, once people get what they want, which really was access more than anything, most people fought for medical. That was the very natural access to fight for. No one in their right mind, except Skunkman Sam, was like, I'm fighting just for people to get high. Like back in the day, you would never have heard anyone say that. When Skunkman said that to me, it even sounded like he said a bad word. Even though I was such a hardcore stoner, there was just this level of like, wow, you can only really promote this if it's for the sick and dying. And I remember kind of having a conversation with Hillary years down the line going, how insane is it that we put a higher value on people that were sick and dying versus people that were gonna get sick and die? You know what I mean? Or people that weren't going to get sick or die right away. Like they all should have the equal fight of access for cannabis. But hey, I'm not mad that it happened the way it happened. It happened the way it happened because of people like Valerie Corral and Dennis Perron and Hillary Black and these people that were like, I am going to, because Hillary was very specific. I'm going to help the most vulnerable section of our society. And fuck, how could you not get behind that? It took me years to kind of be like, you know what? I'm glad I did that, but I should be fighting for all of these other people. Why the fuck are we not fighting for the people who are about to get sick, who could be using cannabis as a precursor to reduce inflammation and reduce the possibility of getting sick in the future? Anyway, sorry for my rambling.
I think it was good ramble.
Solid ramble.
Solid ramble.
Solid ramble. But it also highlights the fractured system that we have, because we have the similar issue down here in the States. It's you can't really necessarily go into a shop and say, I have this issue, and have someone give you what you need for it. It's always a roundabout way of getting the answer, if you so to speak, right?
Right. But that's where the access is.
Sure.
So
But
wherever you put the access, you have to put the information too.
no, you're highlighting the exactly how broken it is, because we need it all to come together. We need pharmacology so that can inform people's decisions on what they recommend and when and why. People need to know drug interactions, like all the stuff that matters to humans, toxicology, and all the other things that wraps around that. Like I think it's just important. Someone going in there for certain illnesses, certain cancers maybe shouldn't be using cannabinoids, right? For instance,
Mhm.
there's instances like that, so
I
there's all
just I
kinds
just
of
know that was the
broken
first
things.
way people were willing to risk not for themselves. The
Sure.
patients were the first time you could risk for something greater than yourself, which to me made it easier. It was like it was less of a risk. It's like I'm just doing this for these people. I don't give a fuck if I get caught or get in trouble because this is the right fucking thing to do. I know it for a
Yeah.
fact.
And the taxes were not there, and the hurdles and the
The
red tape.
overregulation, right?
Yeah.
Well, and
On
the
and
whole the
on and
whole
on and on and on.
the whole hypocrisy of Schedule One listing when there are two FDA approved drugs that are derived from a plant
Right.
who they continue on Schedule One, which they say is there's no
Well,
what
no,
the
but no.
language
Now
that's
you have
used
now you have
the,
them saying that has medicinal use, and
the
HHS even
language that's
saying it.
used though, ATN, is
Yes,
something called currently accepted medical use.
yes.
And so currently accepted medical use, it's like what does how can you divide that? So like if it's accepted, that means that it's again been validated in double blind placebo trials to show that these things in a statistically significant swath of the population that gets this disease, that this medicine works. So if that medicine works, and coupled with the fact that those researchers at in Bethesda at the NIH patented the the neuroprotective property of phytocannabinoids, right?
Exactly. And the
So
CBD one for
and
heart
and
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 stroke.
so and so the USPTO the USPTO is the US Patent and Trade Organization, right? So when you file a patent, it goes to an examiner, right? And the examiner basically just doesn't care anything about DEA opinions or drug policy or anything, just looks at the scientific data. And if the scientific data proves that cannabinoids are neuroprotective, and yeah, if you go to that patent, US 6630507, I think, if you go to that patent, you'll see that there's data in there that basically shows versus control that CBD and other related cannabinoids act as antioxidants, which destroy reactive oxygenated species, which are responsible for carrying out all kinds of collateral damage in traumatic brain injury, in stroke, in all kinds of brain disorders. So if the one end of the government, the U.S. Patent and Trade Organization, which is in the Department of Commerce, basically looks at the data and shows that, yes, this is a new effect that they're patenting, and this is new and useful and very important. They granted it a patent. That happened back on, I think, in 2002. So in 2002, one branch of the government said, there's accepted medical value, right? Because they looked at the data and they said, yes, it's neuroprotective. Neuroprotective means that basically it protects neurons, right, from free radical mediated damage. So at that point right there, the whole Schedule 1 thing should have come unwound because regardless of Epidiolex getting approved and Marinol getting approved, the US government themselves said that there's medical utility, or else they wouldn't have granted a patent on it. Here's the ugly part of that story, too. When that patent got granted, right, it was an issued United States patent, the assignee was the Department of Health and Human Services, right, which is basically the organization that runs the National Institute of Health. Well, then they licensed the patent to a small startup called Canalife in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, that was looking at developing new neurotherapeutics. So here it is. The government, right, which claims that the plant from which these compounds are derived has no accepted medical value, is collecting licensing revenue on their patent for cannabis, right? I mean,
Can't make it
where does
up.
the hypocrisy end
Doylestown,
on this?
Pennsylvania. I love that.
Where does the hypocrisy end on this, man?
No,
I
it's
mean, I mean,
unbelievable.
I mean, so
Oh.
so and even today, I mean, again, like at the end of last year, we talked about this to death, right? ATN, the DEA was having hearings. Ooh, they were having hearings because they wanted to hear from witnesses on why they should consider rescheduling cannabis from 1 to 3. I think everybody on this panel is in the same opinion I am, so I'll say it that they shouldn't be talking about rescheduling, they should be talking about descheduling cannabis. Rescheduling cannabis to 3 is a move that would benefit big pharma. It would really, unless they make an exception for cannabis, because there isn't Schedule 1 3 drugs made from botanicals. So I don't know if any of the facilities that are making cannabis or growing cannabis and making cannabis products would actually be, suitable enough for the GLP and GMP manufacturing of Scheduled 3
Oh, yet
pharmaceutical.
yet yet Target is carrying cannabis and in Minnesota, as well
Oh,
as
right.
Circle K is also going to start carrying cannabis drinks. So isn't it interesting, Mark, that I mean, Dr. Sheldon, how they're telling us this with one thing, but we're watching them ignore the
The
situation
thing that the thing
in
that
the public.
sucks there, ATN, is all of that stuff is just going to be hemp derived D9, right? Which is
Oh, I
chemically
understand, but I'm just
chemically converted D9. So it's
Pandora's out
not
the
even really
box.
natural D9. So, Hawaii, don't get mad at me. Hawaii's going to get mad at me in the chat. But, I don't think it was the intent when they signed the farm bill. Well, the one thing Hawaii and I do agree on is the one plant. This is all one plant. It's all cannabis. There is no industrial hemp. Marcus will tell you industrial hemp is the varieties that they grow looking for, seeds and oil and protein and fiber and all that other crap, not type 3 cannabis. So type 3 cannabis, which again is high in CBD, could still be grown in a cannabis production kind of environment where you're optimizing for canopy. You're not just growing a bunch of row crops right together next to each other like the plot in Geneva, right? ATN. But isn't it true again that and we've talked about this issue to death, that even CBD itself, it's in violation of the FD&C Act to put CBD into food, feed, or cosmetics for interstate
It's
commerce.
international. The UN even stated it's illegal because of what, the UN
Right.
Charter states. So they're
So
breaking
doesn't that tell you,
international law,
ATN,
which is what they beat us over the head with.
doesn't that tell you, ATN, that they didn't even contemplate cannabinoid production in the Farm
Didn't
Bill?
even give it the concept of an idea of a thought.
Right. So, and they keep on talking about the next version of the Farm Bill kind of fixing this. But I don't think the next version of the Farm Bill is going to fix anything because guess what? The regulation over the plant on the Farm Bill ends at harvest, right? So once that stuff is deemed as hemp, right? And so it's just, I don't think it's going to end
I
at the
have no
Farm Bill.
idea how we got here, in reality, but we've been here for a while. And again, that's the twisted reality, which is for those who are watching, Target announced this week that they're going to be carrying, cannabis drinks in Minnesota. And of course, Circle K is going to follow suit. So there's a normalization against the regulations that the legal market is drowning under, that the
Yeah.
hemp market is making so much money that they're bribing the president and Congress to keep the status quo. That's the reality we're living in.
What do you
Yeah,
think
I
is
was
going to
gonna.
happen? Like, what do you think that they're actually going to address the, I mean, they can't, the
They
government's
have
fucking
to.
closed right now, man. They're either employees have been furloughed or told not to come back in, or it's all fucked up. Do you think even this even comes onto their radar at all?
Yeah, I mean, there are Congress people. I mean, Rand Paul's doing stuff with cannabis in Kentucky. We saw the Kentucky Wood stuff that was happening around that. He was actually at their plant, but at the same time, you've got, a completely dysfunctional government. I have no idea what's going to happen. I just said I have no idea how we even fucking got here. Yes, I do anticipate there is going to be laws to close the loophole. There's been talks about it, but now people have been making so much money, the bribes are flowing. And once the bribes are flowing with this administration, all bets are off. Anything is
Yeah.
possible. And the hemp industry is throwing the money to make it possible because this is their last stand, so to say, right? And they're making the most of it. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, it seems like it's by design.
Colin,
Yeah, I
any
mean, I
idea?
was gonna ask the question, like, is it that surprising that we're here? You know, because by construct, if you look at the Cole memo, which is like what sets the tone of like the whole thing, right? It's clear as day that what you just highlighted, Dr. Mark, is law. It once it's harvested, goes off to a processor. That processor has literally no oversight. Um, it's really a brand that comes in and starts asking questions. Do you have COAs? You know what I mean? And then from there, the people that sell it are going to find, you know, whatever loopholes there is, right? Or go to the states that they're selling it through and create the products that need to go to market there.
Well,
And
you
that,
could understand again why people, when they got into hemp and started growing hemp and looking at like, okay, what is legal? And I don't think the 0.3% threshold in the plant was ever meant to be translated into products, right? So
no,
you could have 0.3% in a gummy or
right.
0.3% in a beverage, and that's got a lot. I mean, it's enough in there to get you loaded just because of the whole dilution thing. But the other thing that complicates things is that like when you're looking, yeah, I mean, the okay, you have the trap market, right? The legacy market, right? Which anything goes in, right? And Colin, we've talked about this in terms of like the trap city, New York City shops, right? Where you can just go and get yourself a copy of New York Times, buy yourself a ham, egg, and cheese, and get yourself a half ounce. Just from not, it doesn't even look like a pipe shop or a smoke shop. They might sell papers, they might sell lighters, but they'll sell anything that commuters who are going to their job in some high rise need, right? So
Yeah.
you get off the train. You go, you buy a sandwich, you get a bag of weed, and you get a Coke, and then you go. I mean, it's like I don't know how. and a lot of that stuff, like I was kind of making fun of this on LinkedIn last week. The new pre-roll is super sac hemp plus botanical terpenes plus a little bit of THC isolate. So you could get a good THC number on that pre-roll. And
Right.
so that is the cheapest way to make pre-rolls this year. And like I said last year, when I went to the MJ BizCon out in Las Vegas, Colin, it was the fucking pre-roll show. Every booth or every other booth was like either a pre-roll machine, pre-roll papers, pre-roll packaging, because it's cheap, right? And there's
It's
such an
it's also
abundance of hemp.
convenient, like most people own a lighter, right? So, it's a lot easier for them to even, especially in 2025, 26, they don't even want to roll it, you
Well,
know?
it's a lot easier to be profitable. I mean, like I think that like if you get a license, and even if you're like you're in New York or Massachusetts or even here in Vermont, you get a
Yeah.
license and you have to, again, get all of your employees, badged and FBI checked, and there's cameras all over the place. And right
Yeah.
away, even before you turn on the lights at your grow, you've spent 10 times more money than someone who's just like, oh, I can get some super sack hemp from some guy in Illinois or some shit like that, right? It's probably last year's fucking harvest, not even fresh, sitting in the fucking warehouse for a summer. And now they want to reduce those prices. So they'll take that super sack, which is like 350, 400 pounds, and they'll sell it for a few $100, which is pennies on the dollar. I mean, at the end of the day, you could basically make a pre-roll, smells like weed, test for THCA, right? Because
Sure.
there's now isolate THC isolate, this stuff here is a fucking commodity. It's
No,
like
yeah, yeah,
sugar.
no, I get it, I get it. So I think
It's
like just for the listeners out there, like what Dr. Mark's like highlighting is that you could just go with your thumbs and go buy whatever you want out there, and it'll produce a effect. We'll just call it that. But will it call it give you an experience, like let's say an amazing gram of hash or a jar of rosin? I'd debate that, right? So,
right,
but
but
to your
how does that
point,
compete? And
so
so
it competes
the
in many. I mean,
competition, if it's all
let's
based on price, and even like my wife who will go to the dispensary
yeah,
to buy stuff, she'll look
sure,
to see, hey, what's that? I'm already at the dispensary, I'm getting fleeced already. What's the
yeah,
best value for my buck? And she will look at THC levels, and we'll look at THC levels in the
yeah,
pre-rolls and everything. And so, but is it really meaningful? I mean, the
no,
interesting thing about the pre-roll market, again, is like I think the pre-roll concept is a popular one because sometimes people want to go to the dispensary, right? 18, you probably know this, right? Buy a couple pre-rolls on their way to a gig or on their way to a party, right? It's like, oh, I'm all stocked up, right? I got a couple pre-rolls. So I think people want to buy pre-rolls, but I mean, how do you keep pre-rolls from becoming just the absolute dregs of the worst, you know,
The,
possible
the
weed
the only way
combination.
you
You
can
can't.
stop that
put them
is
in
if
jars like
people
this.
don't buy it. That's it.
Yes,
You
exactly.
can't
Don't
control anything. If people are going to
friends.
buy it, then they want it. It's like complaining that,
Yeah,
if
friends don't
everyone
let friends buy pre-rolls.
Yeah,
remember
like
remember we tried this with what's his name?
friends don't. That's a good T-shirt. I want that one.
Irv? No.
Yeah, if you love somebody,
Rosenfeld.
don't give them a pre-roll.
Well, we had this with Irv. I think it was Irv Rosenfeld who had the tins of cannabis, and we were like, "We're gonna get you better weed," and he was like, "Guys, I love these joints. They're perfect for what I
Yeah.
want." And it's a hard thing to imagine, and I was like that for the longest time, just thinking like everyone needed like something great, and
These are pretty good joints. I gotta give it to the 710 boys. They gave me these out in California, and they were pretty good. Like
yeah.
Hold them up, Colin. Let me
they're
see.
Oh,
Hold them up to
they
the
use
thing.
the pasta as the filter,
they're
right?
it's in a glass jar, right? So and I put mine in a glass jar too. It's like, similar. It's just not a pop top. But it's a nice joint and it smoked really good and it was
It's a
high quality
joint that
flower.
comes in a glass jar.
It does. There was five of them. It's
Oh
a
my
five pack of 2 gram joints. So they're
nice.
2 gram joints in a five pack. And I think that's the right way to do it is like give someone in their hand, you can see that they're hand rolled and they're nice, probably a little bit more expensive, but the convenience of having that pre-rolled like that, I could see how if I'm a consumer, that's how I'd roll a joint. I roll joints just like that for myself if I'm going to
In
smoke a joint.
in
You know?
2011, when I was going through the Dutch Master program, one day we spent going to coffee shops. And when we were sitting in the Dutch coffee shops, more
Yeah.
people were coming in and ordering pre-rolls because they don't know how to roll a joint, period. And they want the convenience. They don't want the inconvenience. They don't want to embarrass themselves. They'd rather get it in a simple, all easy and well to go. So it can be done and it can be done well. But the problem is that the majority of people are using the cone papers, and the
Right.
cone papers, as you know, when you get down to 2 inches, it clogs up. And so you've
Yeah.
got now almost 2 inches of cannabis you now have to figure out what to do with, because so now here in California, they're going with the more wider stem all the way down with a glass stem. So
Yeah.
again, consumers demanding something because they're frustrated because they don't want to buy a product and pay this much and then this much won't work. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? That's
No,
a
the glass tips are
frustration.
good. And you're right. And it's all about the grind diameter. I mean, honestly, there's an art to the perfect joint. I mean, I took a year of my life.
And more don't do it right, as you know, Colin, than do it right.
No, you're right. They don't understand. They don't have the right grinders. They don't have the right diameters. It's all off, and the airflow gets all messed up. And yeah, and that's an adverse experience. And it just takes one experience for that. To your point, for someone to just go back to buying an eighth, and it being hard to move it. But yeah, I mean, but they can be good. I just wanted to highlight that because I've had some good experiences with it, even
Well,
though they
Marcus,
get
this
a
is a
bad
great
rap.
time. This is a great time to close this out and bring us back to Wade.
Perfect. I'm gonna do that. I got Wade's video right here. I don't know if it's exactly where it was, but we'll just watch the last 5 minutes of it. I want to thank everyone for watching before I put Wade on, because I will not say anything once Wade has spoken. I want to thank Puffco and Bubble Bags and the Pressco for sponsoring the show. Thank everyone for watching. Thank everyone on the panel. Yes, Dr. Mark, you got your proxy. I got my proxy here. We'll all have proxies soon enough. They're coming, trust me. But yeah, in the meantime, here we are, Mr. Wade Laughter. Closing us out, Wade, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop there. Enjoy what you have and celebrate it. Be grateful. I think it makes a lot of sense for everybody who's listening to learn how to be present with the people in your life in all kinds of different ways. Don't assume that the beautiful relationship that you have right now will always be that way. Be that in business or in romance or in real estate, whatever. One of the cliches that I've come to realize is deep truth. There's some little cliches that are sort of funny, and then there's others that are funny, and there's a deep truth. And I don't remember this one. Yes, what you have in your life, the situation that you have in your life right now, ideally it's a situation you're enjoying and find fulfilling, and are surrounded by people who care about you, and you're just having a grand old time. And to be really clear, there's nothing wrong with that. By all means, enjoy your life when your life is providing you what you want from it. And I'm just here to testify to the idea that your life may not always give you what you want. The cliche I was trying to remember is the only constant is change. And that's really true. It's a part of Mahayana Buddhism. it's one of the paths of meditation to really just go into, yeah, the moment, if you will. So since it's church and Wade's given testimony today, I would remind all of you to take the time to recognize that you are worthy. You are worthy of the respect and love of your community. You're worthy of the love and respect of your family. But really, at core, you're worthy of the love and respect for yourself, for the human being you are, not for your activities, for the being that is there with you when you go to sleep at night, that person. It's just you. You're not proving anything, not making the world a better place. Maybe you're going to get some rest, which might help you feel better. So there's an act of loving kindness. But yeah, it would be to take a moment, maybe every day, part of your daily thing. Put it on your calendar, if you will. Take a minute to appreciate you. Take a moment to appreciate you. I can't even begin to express how much Monica has done for me over the last 4 years and the cost to her. We're both pretty tired, I got to say. And I'm lucky to have her. I'll say that.
Peace out, everybody.